This is the 7th year of my redemption mission as the female supporting character, and she is pregnant with our child. Everyone says I've finally seen the light after the storm. But when she and her once deeply loved male protagonist, Chen-Chi, got into a car accident, I finally realized these 7 years were just a joke where I was the only one laughing. I watched with my own eyes as she ran toward the driver's seat without a second thought. With a panicked face, she pulled open the car door, her voice filled with a tension and heartache I had never heard before. Achi, are you okay? Were you scared? Are you hurt anywhere? I collapsed beside my bicycle, my left calf sliced open by the BMW's bumper, leaving a deep, bone-deep gash. Blood gushed out rapidly soon, soaking through my pant leg and spreading into a piercing crimson patch on the scorching asphalt. The excruciating pain made my vision go dark, but the pain in my heart was even worse. I opened my mouth, wanting to call her name, wanting to tell her I was severely injured, but my throat felt choked up by something, only able to make broken, raspy sounds. Chu Qiao was only a few steps away from me. She even glanced in my direction. With just that one glance, her eyes swept from my bloody, mangled calf to my pale face. There was no concern or heartache in her expression, only an interrupted annoyance and a trace of blame. Yes, blame, as if she was reproaching me for why I had to appear here, why I had to ruin their moment of reunion after a long separation with such a pathetic appearance. Then she turned, her head, all her attention falling back onto Chen-Chi carefully, supporting his arm. Her voice was soft enough to drip water. Slow down, don't rush. Let me help you down first. I'll have the insurance handle the car. Don't worry. Chen-Chi got out of the car, dressed in a sharp suit with not even a strand of hair out of place. He patted his sleeve, speaking with just the right amount of apology. Xiao Qiao, I'm fine. Instead, it seems your friend is quite badly hurt. As he said this, his gaze lightly brushed over me like he was looking at an insignificant weed by the roadside. Chu Qiao finally turned back to me. Her brow furrowed, her tone rather impatient. Cheng Mo Chuan, can you stop lying on the ground? It's no big deal. Stand up and talk. She paused, then added, Achi wasn't driving fast. It must have been your own carelessness rushing out suddenly. Get up first. Don't block the road here. The July sun baked the earth, but I felt completely frozen. Waves of pain hit my calf, but none of it compared to the desolate wasteland freezing inch by inch in my heart. In the end, it was Chu, Kiao's colleague, who couldn't bear to watch and called an ambulance for me. The sharp siren of the ambulance approached from afar, and the medical staff ran over with a stretcher. Chu Qiao helped Chen-Chi step aside. The doctor said something, and Chen-Chi shook his head slightly. A look of relief appeared on her face. From beginning to end, she did not take another step closer to me. I was lifted into the ambulance. The moment the door closed, I saw Chu Qiao tilting her head, smiling at Chen-Chi. Her profile was bright and beautiful in the sunlight. That was the smile I used to try my absolute best to protect, but now it was only blooming for someone else. And I, like an absolute clown, lay on the treatment bed in the emergency room. The pungent smell of disinfectant filled my nasal cavity. The doctor cut open my pant leg, revealing a gruesome wound and a clearly unnaturally bent shin bone. Young man, you're quite badly injured. It's a tibia fracture and needs a cast to fix it. Is your family here? Call them to let them know. Someone needs to take care of you during admission later, the doctor said while preparing the equipment. I fished out my phone. The screen was as clean as if it had been washed with no missed calls and no messages. Chu Qiao hadn't even asked me a single "how are you?" I stared at the name pinned to the top of my contact list, the time hovering on the screen, but I hesitated to press it. A voice in my heart sneered. Cheng Mo Chuan, what are you still hoping for? Wasn't her attitude just now clear enough? But another weak voice was struggling. Maybe she was just terrified. Maybe she's on her way here right now. 7 years, we've been together for 7 years. Even a pet develops feelings, let alone a human. Ultimately, that pathetic bit of wishful thinking won. I dialed her number. After the first long, ringing sound, it automatically hung up. The second time was the same. On the third time, it rang 7 or 8 times before finally being picked up. But what came through was a cold, automated female voice. Hello, the user you dialed is currently on another call. She hung up on me. When I dialed a fourth time, it directly prompted, the number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. She blacklisted me. Right when I was covered in blood lying in an ambulance? And after she witnessed my injury with her own eyes, instead of a single word of concern, she found me bothersome and blocked my number. It turns out that when heartbreak reaches the extreme, it really goes numb. I put down my phone and forced a smile at the doctor that looked worse than crying. Doctor, I don't have family here. Can I sign for myself? The doctor looked at me, then at my silent phone, a flash of realization and sympathy crossing his eyes. He sighed and didn't ask any more questions, only telling the nurse to bring the consent form. When the disinfecting cotton ball touched the wound, a piercing, bone-deep pain caused my body to instantly tense up, my fingernails digging deeply into my palm. Yet this physical pain, strangely enough, allowed me to break free just a little from that suffocating heartbreak. Bear with, it'll be over in a moment, The doctor said deftly, "Young man, look on the bright side. Who can't live without someone else these days? She's just a girlfriend. If things don't work out, just change to another one. Life's path is long, don't hang yourself on a single tree." I understood all the reasoning, but if it were just a simple girlfriend, that would be fine. Chu Chao wasn't just a woman I had loved for 7 years. She was the entire meaning of my existence in this world. She was my target for completion. The story goes back to 7 years ago. I am not a person from this world. I am bound to a so-called redemption system. My mission is to transmigrate into various novel worlds to redeem those affectionate, supporting female characters who ended up with tragic fates because of unrequited love, helping them achieve happiness and changing their originally tragic endings. In this world, the male lead, Chen-Chi, and the female lead, Ya-An, are universally recognized as the golden couple childhood sweethearts whose love naturally led to marriage. Meanwhile, the supporting female character, Chu Qiao, as the girl next door, who grew up with Chen-Chi, had been infatuatedly in love with him since childhood, confessing over and over only to be rejected again and again. Chen-Chi even went abroad to study, chasing after Xia-An just to completely get rid of her persistence, and they held their wedding abroad. When the news reached the country, Chu Qiao completely collapsed. She developed severe depression and her entire being withered rapidly. I appeared in her life at exactly this time, in the capacity of a psychiatrist. The mission given to me by the system was to redeem Chu Qiao, helping her step out of her obsession with Chen-Chi, gain her own happiness, and spend this life in peace. At first, everything was just a mission. I showed up on time every day, patiently, listened to her tearful complaints, guided her to vent her emotions, and controlled her condition with professional skills and medications. I took her for walks, accompanied her to read dry psychology books, and when she lost control of her emotions and tried to harm herself, I gripped without hesitation the blade sliding toward her wrist with my hand. Blood dripped from between my fingers. She froze, staring blankly at me. I said, "Chu Qiao, your life is very precious. Don't waste it on someone who doesn't love you. In this world, there will always be someone who truly loves and cherishes you." Perhaps it was from that day on that the way she looked at me changed. I wasn't just her doctor anymore. I gradually became the only floating driftwood she could grab onto when she was drowning. I accompanied her through the most difficult recovery phase, watching her regain vitality bit by bit and rediscover interest in life. The relationship between us also slowly turned from doctor-patient into friends and ultimately crossed that line to become lovers. Everyone said Chu Hao was so lucky to have met me, and even she herself often said, "Chung, Mo Chuan, you are like a beam of light that suddenly appeared in my life. If it weren't for you, I might have rotted away in that dark room long ago." We dated, watched movies, and traveled like any ordinary couple. I would remember all her preferences and dietary restrictions, cooking for her with a different variety every day. During her period, I stayed awake all night. Massaging her stomach. When she faced setbacks at work, I stayed with her to revise plans over and over, to cheer her up. 7 years, over 2,000 days and nights, I gave her all the patience and care that a psychiatrist could offer a patient, and all the passion and loyalty that a man could dedicate to his beloved woman. I thought even a stone would have been warmed up by now. In fact, the system had also prompted me multiple times that the target character's happiness value was continuously rising and the completion progress had reached 92%. Host, please keep up the good work. Victory is in sight. But on the very first day, Chen-Chi returned to the country. This insight of mine turned into reflections on the water shattering at a single touch. Today was originally my birthday. According to our unbreakable agreement, over the past 7 years, I would leave work early in the afternoon, riding my retro bicycle with a basket fully loaded with her favorite champagne roses and baby's breath to pick her up downstairs at her company. Then we would go together to that DIY cake shop we often visited to make a birthday cake with our own hands, and then go to the gift shop next door to pick out a gift for each other. After returning home, I would cook longevity noodles, she would set the dining table, and we would make wishes and eat cake together. Finally, hand in hand, we would go to ride the highest Ferris wheel in the city. When it reached the absolute peak, we would kiss, making a wish facing the starry sky and promising that the next and the next after next birthday, we would still spend them together. I even discovered a pregnancy test report yesterday morning in the drawer of our bedroom's bedside table, which had been carefully hidden away by her. The ultrasound image was still very small with only a blurry gestational sac, but her name was written clearly and unmistakably on it. The diagnosis results showed early pregnancy of about 6 weeks. She was pregnant with our child. She didn't immediately tell me. I guess she wanted to treat this news as a birthday surprise, telling me personally tonight at the most romantic moment. I was so excited about this that I didn't sleep well all night and all day today. I was completely distracted, my lips uncontrollably curving upward. My colleagues teased me about whether I had won the lottery. I just smiled without a word. Yes, I had won the most precious lottery in this world. I was going to have a little life with the woman I loved, carrying our shared bloodline. I thought this was exactly what complete happiness looked like until I stood downstairs at her company, holding a carefully arranged bouquet of new flowers, watching that familiar black BMW suddenly accelerate and then hit me as if losing control, until I collapsed in a pool of blood watching my lover rush toward another man. Until this very moment as I lay on a cold hospital bed enduring the excruciating pain of a fracture all by myself while my family was accompanying the very man who caused my injury, perhaps having dinner together in some cozy restaurant and reminiscing about the past. It was truly absurd and ironic. After the wound was treated and a cast was applied, I was pushed in a wheelchair by a nurse to handle the admission procedures. While lining up at the payment window on the first floor, I saw that pair of figures once again. Chu Qiao was intimately holding Chen Chi's arm, tilting her head and looking up to say something. To him, her eyes and brows completely filled with joy and reliance. That was an expression I hadn't seen on her face in a very long time. Once she would occasionally look at me like this too after I successfully helped her solve a tricky psychological problem or when she was moved by some small surprise. I had prepared, but I didn't know, since when such looks became fewer and fewer, replaced by a routine plainness, and even occasionally an imperceptible weariness. Chen Qi seemed to say something, and Chu Qiao jokingly punched him lightly, but her smile grew even brighter. The familiarity and intimacy flowing between them was something that even 7 years of time couldn't let me break into. I was like a clumsy actor forcing my way into someone else's story and acting out 7 years of deep devotion without regret. But now that the rightful owner had returned, I should have the tact to leave the stage quietly. In my mind, the cold mechanical voice of the system suddenly rang out, warning, "Detection. Shows target character Chu Qiao's affection value toward the host." Dropping sharply while her affection value toward original plot character Chen Qi is rising rapidly. Host, please take action immediately to salvage the target character's emotional inclination, otherwise the mission faces the risk of failure. I curled my lips in a smirk, ignoring it. Take action. What action could I possibly take? Rush up, drag Chu Qiao away, and demand to know why she treated me like this. That would only make me look even more like a pathetic and tragic madman. Besides, the system was right. Toward Chu Qiao, it had long ceased to be just a mission. During these 7 years, I had truly considered myself Cheng Mochuan and had truly fallen in love with this woman whom I had pulled out from the abyss of despair bit by bit. Because of a single sentence from her saying she wanted to eat the glutinous rice lotus root from that shop in the East End, I would cross half the city. Because of a single nightmare she had at night, I would hold her and kiss her all night long. I would secretly buy the dress she took a fancy to, but couldn't bear to buy, giving her a surprise on our anniversary. I loved her so I willingly sacrificed, willingly waited, and willingly believed that sincerity could move mountains. But now the system told me that my love made her feel burdened and my kindness was taken for granted by her or even viewed as having an ulterior motive. Just at this moment, Chen Chi's voice faintly drifted over. Xiao Qiao, was that person today really? Your friend, I saw he was quite badly hurt. Should we go take a look? After all, it's my responsibility. I should apologize in person. His tone was gentle and strong, carrying just the right amount of guilt. Anyone who heard it would think he was a reasonable and understanding man. Chu Hao immediately replied, her voice carrying a defensive urgency. Oh, Chi, how many times have I told you it's none of your business? He didn't pay attention himself and rushed out, you are a victim too. Why apologize? Besides, he's thick-skinned and tough, it's just a little blood. What could happen to him, I'd say? Think he did it on purpose. On purpose. My heart fiercely shrank. He just can't stand to see you doing well. Can't stand to see you coming back to find me. So he intentionally used this self-injury trick to force me to choose between you and him. It's childish and disgusting. Chu Qiao's voice raised a bit, filled with disdain and impatience. Chen Qi seemed to let out a helpless sigh. Xiao Qiao, don't say that. After all, your relationship looks out of the ordinary. Is he pursuing you if my return makes things difficult? For you, then I have absolutely no relationship with him, Chu Qiao interrupted him, her tone completely categorical. We are just ordinary friends. No, not even friends. Then I have absolutely no relationship with him, Chu Qiao interrupted him, her tone firm and decisive. We're just ordinary friends. No, not even friends. We can't even be considered that, at most just acquaintances who have known each other for a relatively long time. Chi, don't overthink it. You have always known my feelings. 7 years of living together, day and night, being so intimate and sleeping in each other's arms for countless nights. Those words of I love you, she once said with a blushing face. those futures we planned together, and the names of the children we dreamed of. In the end, in her mouth, it was just knowing each other. For a relatively long time, a massive sense of absurdity and stinging pain swept over me, making it almost impossible for me to breathe. I tightly gripped the armrest of the wheelchair just to keep myself from making a single sound. Chenchi seemed to glance in my direction, a trace of elusive emotion flashing in his eyes like pity and yet like smugness. He quickly withdrew his gaze and said gently to Chu Chao, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Your face doesn't look too good. Were you frightened? Let me accompany you to drink something hot first to calm your nerves." Chu Chao obediently nodded and the two walked away together, never looking toward my corner, even once. I sat in the wheelchair like a ghost, watching their backs disappear outside the glass doors of the hospital lobby. The sunlight was blinding, but I only felt cold to the very marrow of my bones. The system spoke up again. Host. According to calculations, the target character's current emotional inclination toward the original male lead has exceeded that toward the host. If the host gives up taking the initiative, the probability of mission failure exceeds 85%. The consequence of mission failure is that the host will be obliterated. Obliteration meant that my consciousness entity would completely disappear without leaving even a trace of having existed. I should have been afraid. But at this moment, I was surprisingly and strangely calm. If I failed the completion, I silently asked the system in my mind, "But Chu Chao is willing to keep this child. Does that count as another form of completing the mission? After all, the child is the continuation of my bloodline." The system fell silent for a few seconds. Theoretically, there is such a possibility. If the target character voluntarily gives birth to the child with the host and independently raises the child to grow up in peace and happiness after the host's death, the system can determine it as witnessing the completion of the mission. The host can be exempted from obliteration but will need to accept punishment in another form, such as wiping relevant memories and exiling to another low difficulty world to start over. A glimmer of hope. Although it was faint, and although it was humiliating, it was a glimmer of hope after all. Will Chu Chao keep this child? I recalled her actions of hiding the pregnancy test report when I discovered it. Was that shyness or hesitation? Thinking back to how she would occasionally stroke her lower abdomen and daze off. These past few months, I had asked her what was wrong, but she always shook her head and said it was nothing. Thinking back to a week ago, she suddenly asked me very seriously, "Chung Mo Chuan, if there is a child, will you be a good father?" How did I answer at that time? I said, "I will work hard to give the best of the whole world to you both." She smiled at that time and didn't say anything, her gaze a bit drifted. Thinking about it now, how much of that smile was anticipation and how much was something else, my mind was as tangled as a mess of hemp. Dragging my leg in a cast, I went through the admission procedures by myself with difficulty and returned to the cold single hospital room. The night was already deep and outside the window, the city lights were brilliant, but not a single one shone for me. My phone was still as quiet as a brick. Driven by some bizarre impulse, I clicked open my email inbox. Inside lay an unread email sent at 23:59 tonight. The sender was an unfamiliar address with the nickname Sunny Doll. The email title was very simple: "Happy birthday, Dr. Cheng." The content wasn't long either. "Dear Dr. Chung," I hesitated for a very long time before deciding to send this perhaps somewhat presumptuous blessing at this specific point in time. "Happy birthday. I think I am probably the last person to say happy birthday to you today, but I hope this late blessing won't disturb the warm time you spend with the person you love. I know we can't even be considered friends, and you probably no longer remember who I am. That's okay. In my heart, you will forever be that angel in white who stretched out his hand during my darkest days 7 years ago to pull me back from the edge of the abyss. You made me believe that this world still has goodness and warmth, so please allow me to silently bless you in this way. May you be as happy and smooth sailing every year as you are today. May you forever be yourself with your original radiance, unchanged by anyone. A stranger who was healed by you and dares not leave a name." The signature block was blank. I stared at this email for a very long time. 7 years ago, the patients I treated were many. Sunny Doll. A corner of my memory was nudged. It seemed there was, indeed, such a girl. She wasn't very old, had a very severe autistic tendency, and refused to communicate with anyone. She had such a young girl, not very old, but with severe autistic tendencies, refusing to communicate with anyone, and having severe self-harm tendencies. Her family seemed very rich, but her parents' relationship was extremely poor. Except for material satisfaction, they almost ignored her completely. It took me a long time before she was willing to open her mouth and say her first sentence to me. Later, her condition improved and she was taken abroad by her family to continue treatment and schooling. Before leaving, she indeed seemed to have given me a Sunny Doll pendant she made herself along with a testimonial banner. What was written on it again, it seemed to be miraculous. Hand's benevolent heart lighting up the lamp of the soul. That pendant afterwards seemed to have been carelessly lost by me or put away somewhere. I can't remember clearly. So 7 years have already passed. It turns out that during the period when I was devoting all my heart and strength to illuminating Chu Chao's dark life, I had also unintentionally become a beam of glimmering light in someone else's life. This email from a distant stranger became the only faint warmth on this tragic birthday of mine. I closed the inbox with a bitter smile. The system asked me, "Host, do you want to live nonsense? If one could live, who would want to die? But if living meant continuing to watch the woman I love throw herself into someone else's embrace like this with my own eyes, using so-called good performance to exchange for a glimmer of hope, how much meaning would there be in such a living?" But the child that is the connection of blood between me and Chu Chao, the proof that these 7 years truly existed. Even if she doesn't love me, even if she treats me like trash, the child is innocent. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. System monitor Chu Chao's movements for me, especially regarding the child. If she makes any decision, tell me immediately. Command received monitoring has been activated, the system replied. This night, I lay on the hospital bed with my eyes open until dawn. The pain in my calf tortured me intermittently, but what tortured me even more were the images playing repeatedly in my mind, Chu Chao rushing toward Chen. She turning her back on me without hesitation, and that impatient gaze. When she looked at me, her decisive tone saying we couldn't even be considered friends. Every single bit of sweetness from these 7 years, at this moment, turned into dense needles pricking the softest place in my heart. I remembered. Last year on my birthday, she drank a little wine, leaned in my arms with her eyes sparkling, said, "Chengmo Chuan, next year, the year after, next, the year after that, and every birthday in the future, I want to spend it with you. We have to spend so many birthdays together until we become an old man and an old lady." The words are still ringing in my ears, but the person has already flown away. It turns out that sincerity changes in an instant and promises are as light as a feather. Early the next morning, I was woken up by the ringing of my phone. The name jumping on the screen was Chu Chao. Looking at those two words, my heart twitched with a conditional reflex pain, and what flooded up immediately after was deep fatigue and a kind of blunt pain that was almost numb. I didn't pick up the phone immediately. It rang for a long time and automatically hung up. A few seconds later, it rang again over and over persistently, as if the person who blacklisted my number yesterday wasn't her. Finally, when the ringtone rang for the 7th time, I pressed the answer button. Chung Mo Chuan. Chu Chao's voice came from the other end of the phone with obvious anger. "Where are you? Why didn't you come home last night?" Her questioning was righteous and confident, as if I were just a rebellious youth who needed to be disciplined. I looked at the time, 7:05 in the morning. "What about you?" I heard my own voice dry and raspy. "Did you go back?" The other end of the phone paused for a moment, then her tone became even heavier. "What do you care? When I go back, I'm asking you a question. You didn't stay out all night and still think you're in the right? Look, this is Chu Chao, always. Only seeing other people's faults and taking her own behavior for granted." I suddenly felt very tired, not even having the strength to argue. Yesterday in the car accident, the tibia of my left calf was fractured and a cast was applied. The doctor asked me to stay in the hospital for observation. I am in the hospital now. I spoke in a matter-of-fact manner without even deliberately emphasizing the severity of the injury. It was just stating facts. Deep down in my heart, perhaps there was still a tiny, extremely weak expectation lingering, expecting that she could show a little bit of concern, even if it was just a perfunctory sentence like, "How did it get so severe?" The other end of the phone fell into silence. This silence made me even more heartbroken than direct insults. After quite a few seconds, Chu Chao's voice rang out again, but it was filled with unbelievable doubt and sarcasm. "A fracture, Chung Mo Chuan, what kind of joke? Are you playing? Didn't it just get scraped and bleed a little? How could it be a fracture?" "Ah," Chi said. "His car wasn't driving fast. It was you who suddenly rushed out yourself. Are you trying to play some kind of trick again?" Sure enough, I curled my lips, wanting to laugh but only feeling boundless desolation. Chenchi said it was what Chenchi said again. Her trust toward him was unconditional, and her doubt toward me was unconditional. "The diagnosis report is with me. Do you need me to take a picture of it for you to see?" I heard myself say in an unusually calm tone. Chu Chao sneered. "A diagnosis report, Chung Mo Chuan, in order to frame Chi, in order to sow discord between him and me, you really have gone to great lengths. You even prepared a fake diagnosis report, or else. They said your photoshopping skills have improved again." He paused, his tone becoming serious, yet even more sarcastic. "Chung Mo Chuan, I know you love me and can't bear to let me go, but loving someone to the point of using such underhanded tactics only makes me feel disgusted. Look at H.E. He has been blaming himself since yesterday, reflecting on whether he wasn't careful enough, and he even wants to apologize and make amends to you. But what about you? Not only do you refuse to admit you did wrong, but you also try everything to throw dirt on others. Chung Mo-chuan, when can you grow up a bit? When can you take some responsibility? This is the biggest difference between you and H.E. If you're going to stay this obsessed, then don't come back. Stay outside and think things through clearly. After saying that, he cleanly and decisively hung up the phone. Listening to the busy tone from the screen, the hand I used to hold the phone didn't lower for a long time. The weather outside was great with the sunlight shining through the glass onto the white sheets, feeling warm and cozy. But I felt as if I were standing on a frozen wasteland with the biting cold wind blowing, unable to see any way out. It turns out that when someone doesn't love you, even your breathing is a mistake, your injury is faked, your pain is an act, and all your explanations have hidden motives. He only wants to believe the facts he wants to believe, the truth woven by Chenchi. I put down my phone and slowly sat up. My leg hurt a lot, a piercing pain with every movement. But I still gritted my teeth, got out of bed, took the crutches the nurse lent me, and began to pack my things. I wanted to be discharged. I didn't want to lie here anymore like a corpse waiting for a visit that might never come. I wanted to go back to that so-called home to face everything I had to face, whether it was a glimmer of hope or total despair. Handling the discharge procedures was more troublesome than I thought, dragging a leg in a heavy cast. Every step was difficult and slow. By the time I finally made it back downstairs to my apartment, was already drenched in sweat and deathly pale, not just from exhaustion, but from the waves of dizziness caused by low blood sugar. Pushing open the front door, the familiar entryway, the familiar living room. And on the dining table, there was actually a bowl of purple rice porridge, still steaming slightly, with a plate next to it containing a fried egg and bacon. I froze for a moment. Chu Chao made this. He's at home and even left. Breakfast for me? This thought flashed for just a second before I fiercely crushed it. Impossible. His attitude on the phone earlier had already explained everything. It was probably leftover food he made for himself or for Chenchi. But at this moment, the dizziness and the emptiness in my stomach made me not care so much. Leaning on my crutches, I moved to the dining table, picked up the bowl of seemingly sweet and soft purple rice porridge, and without caring about the heat, took a big gulp. The warm porridge slid down my esophagus, temporarily relieving that alarming dizziness. However, just as I was about to take a second sip, a figure suddenly rushed out of the kitchen. It was Chu Tiao. He was still wearing an apron with a gentle expression on his face that he didn't have time to hide. But the moment he saw me holding the bowl of porridge, that expression was instantly replaced by rage. "Chung Mo-chuan!" he screamed sharply, rushing over and snatching the bowl out of my hands while pushing me hard. I was completely unguarded, barely standing. By relying on the crutches, so with his push, I lost my balance and crashed heavily onto the hard tiles of the entryway. My back and the back of my head hit the ground with a dull thud. To make matters worse, my injured left leg got twisted when I fell and the cast smashed against the doorframe. Intense pain instantly exploded from the injury, making my vision go black. As I almost passed out. I curled up on the ground for a long time before the wave of severe pain subsided, cold sweat dripping from my forehead, while Chu Chao just stood in front of me, looking down at me with a cold, disgusted look. "Who told you to touch my porridge?" His voice was piercing. "Chung Mo-chuan, didn't your mother teach you that taking things without asking is stealing? How can you have no manners at all?" I looked at him, looking at his beautiful face, slightly distorted by anger, and suddenly felt he was completely unrecognizable. This was the woman I had loved for 7 years, violently pushing me down over a bowl of porridge, and then accusing me of having no manners. My blood sugar is low. Struggled to speak, my voice hoarse. I was dizzy and couldn't stand straight. Keep acting," Chu Chao sneered, pointing at my leg. "What a last time it was a severed tendon, and this time you hit a blood pack inside the gauze. In advance, Chung Mo-chuan, you're addicted to acting. Aren't you the pity play doesn't work on me? It just disgusts me to look at you." He bent down, picked up the porridge bowl and spoon that had fallen to the ground, and without a second glance, threw them straight into the nearby trash can. "This is what I spent the whole morning making specifically for H.E. What right do you have to drink? Are you even worthy?" His chest heaved, clearly furious. "Now it's all ruined and I have to remake it. Chung Mo-chuan, besides causing me trouble, and blocking my way, what else can you do?" The position of my heart seemed to be so painful that it went numb, leaving only a piece of empty icy coldness. I supported myself against the floor, wanting to crawl up on my own, but my leg hurt terribly. I tried a few times but failed, which only caused the blood seeping through the gauze to expand even more. Chu Chao watched cold ying my struggle without any intention of giving me a hand. Right at this moment, His phone, which was placed on the living room coffee table, rang. The ringtone was a specially set melody. The anger on his face instantly vanished, even replaced by a sweet smile. He quickly walked over and picked up the phone, speaking in a gentle tone I had never heard before. "Hello, Aichi." The voice from the other end came faintly, a young man's voice filled with laughter. "Little Chow, is it ready? My stomach is about to starve to death. It's been so long since I ate the breakfast you made. It's probably been 7 years, right? You couldn't have forgotten my taste, right?" "How could I?" Chu Chao maintained a cheerful tone. "What you love to eat and what you hate to eat, no one in this world remembers better than I do. Forget 7 years, even if it's 70 years when we are all old and our teeth are all gone, I won't forget. It'll be ready soon, just wait a bit longer." Hanging up the phone, the gentleness on his face instantly faded, returning to the coldness and impatience he showed when facing me. He glanced at the porridge in the trash can, then glared at me. "What are you lying there for? Waiting for me to serve? You, Chung Mo Chuan, I'm warning you, Achi will be coming over for breakfast in a while. You better be smart and stay out of sight. Quickly clean up your mess. Seeing you all bloody looks so unlucky." After saying that, he turned and went into the kitchen to start busying himself again, the pots and pans making clattering sounds. I lay on the floor, looking at the familiar chandelier pattern on the ceiling, and suddenly wanted to laugh. I actually giggled out loud, the laughter echoing in the empty living room, filled with endless desolation and self-mockery. I didn't know how long I lay on the floor until the pain in my leg eased slightly, and only then did I grit my teeth and use all my strength to prop myself up against the wall and on one leg, little by little. Every single movement hurt so much that my whole body trembled and cold sweat drenched the clothes on my back. Leaning on my crutches, I moved to the side of the sofa and found the medical box, preparing to change the blood-soaked gauze for myself. Chu Hao walked out carrying the newly made breakfast, which smelled delicious. He didn't even glance at me, walking straight to the door to change shoes and grab his bag, his movement smooth. "I won't be back at noon. For the evening, it depends on the situation." Leaving behind these words, he opened the door and his figure disappeared outside. The sound of the door closing wasn't loud yet. It felt like a heavy hammer smashing onto my empty heart. I lowered my head slowly and painfully, tearing away the blood-stained old gauze. Because of the impact just now, the wound had torn open a bit, looking even more gruesome and ugly. Expressionless, I disinfected, applied medicine, and wrapped it with new gauze, my movement so practiced that it would make one's heart ache. Because over the past 7 years, whenever Chu Chao occasionally bumped into something and got hurt or was in a bad mood and used a small knife to cut herself, it was always me who carefully treated her like this. Back then, she would still shed tears because of the pain, looking at me pitifully and saying, "Mo Chuan, be gentler." But now, as I treated such a serious injury for myself, he begrudged giving me even a single glance. That evening, Chu Chao indeed didn't come back. In the dead of night, I was awakened by waves of loud roaring outside the window. Opening my eyes, I saw the pitch black night sky illuminated by brilliant fireworks, one after another, grand and magnificent. The fireworks exploded at the highest point. I fished out my phone, the light from the screen looking a bit piercing in the dim room. WeChat Moments showed an update prompt. Clicking it. The very first post was a 15-second video posted by Chu Chao. What was shot was exactly the fireworks feast outside the window, with the caption, "The childhood friend brought me burning love. He said tonight the fireworks of the whole city bloom for me alone." Following the text was a red heart icon. I silently looked at it, my finger moving to give it a like. Then I noticed that of the couple profile pictures shared by me and Chu Chao, only mine was left hanging there, all alone. His profile picture had been changed at some unknown time, replaced by a photo that looked a bit familiar to me. 7 years ago, when I had just taken over his case not long ago, he once had a depression relapse and an emotional breakdown. And he was holding this exact photo, crying his heart out. That was a photo of him and Chenchi during their youth. On a very sunny afternoon, the two of them stood side by side under a large tree. Chenchi turned his head to look at him and smiled while he faced the camera, his smile shy and bright. Later, as his condition improved and he decided to start anew, he had torn this photo into pieces right in front of me and thrown them into the trash can. He said, "Dr. Chang, you're right. I shouldn't harm myself for someone who doesn't cherish me. I want to forget him and start a new life." At that time, I even secretly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he had truly walked out of it. But now, it seems he just hid this photo in the deepest part of his heart, and the moment Chenchi returned, it immediately broke through the soil and once again occupied his entire world. I exited WeChat Moments and clicked into the chat window with Chu Chao. The background image had also been changed from our photo together to that giant firework in the night sky. How beautiful, yet how ironic. The romance I had provided him with was countless booking the entire mall using roses to arrange his name using drones by the sea to light up Chu Chao, I love you. Even on one of his birthdays, I had also set off a firework display for him that belonged to just the two of us. But he never posted about it on WeChat Moments. At most, he would just hug me with emotion at that time and say, "Thank you, MwRc." It turns out, it wasn't that he didn't like romance, nor that he didn't like to show off. It was just that the romance and indulgence did not come from the person in the deep part of his heart. Therefore, no matter how grand or how mindful, it couldn't arouse his desire to share. I silently changed the couple profile picture I had used for 7 years as well, replacing it with the system default blank space. A single person's couple profile picture is like a one-man show with no audience, aside from reminding oneself of loneliness and stupidity. It is completely meaningless. The fireworks continued illuminating half the night sky and also illuminating the endless loneliness in my room. I turned off my phone, lay back down, and covered my head with the blanket. The system said softly in my mind, "Host, I found some information. Chen Qi and the female lead, Xia An, haven't actually divorced abroad. The two just had a fierce argument recently and are in a Cold War period. Chen Qi's return this time is nominally to handle some of his family's business in the country. But in reality, what the system didn't continue. But I understood. Chen Qi didn't return to the country for Chu Chao. He was perhaps just experiencing a setback in his marriage, returning to find solace or simply enjoying the feeling of being wholeheartedly admired by a woman who waited for him with such devotion like Chu Chao. Yet Chu Chao took this as a lost and found chance for love. How pathetic. He and I, in this play of three people, are both pathetic supporting characters. However, I saw my own position clearly earlier than he did. For the next half month, my life returned to a certain eerie calm. Leaning on my crutches, I went back to the company to work. Seeing my injury, my colleagues showed concern and asked about it one after another. I only said that I accidentally fell myself. Chu Chao didn't contact me again as if he had disappeared from this world. But occasionally I could see his figure from Chen Qi's WeChat moments. Chen Qi posted dinner photos, and in the corner there would be Chu Chao's profile with a lowered head and a faint smile. Chen Qi posted golf course photos, and in the distance there would be Chu Chao's figure sitting under a sun umbrella waiting for him. Chen Qi even posted a blurry night view photo with the caption, "Long lost piece." In the photo, two hands were very close to each other, and on one of the wrists was the bracelet I gave to Chu Chao. They were like a real couple going out in pairs, enjoying the sweetness of a reunion after a long separation. While I, like a rat in the gutter, could only look through these onlookers' perspectives to spy on how my former lover was resuming an old romance with another man. The leg injury was slowly healing, but the wound in my heart was rotting and festering in the day-by-day silence, until one afternoon, half a month later, I finally couldn't help but actively send a message to Chu Chao. I didn't ask where he was, who he was with, or if he was doing well. I just took a photo of that pregnancy test report and sent it over. "Chu Chao, you're pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? You can't drink during pregnancy. It's bad for your body." After the message was sent, I stared at the phone screen, my heart beating heavily in my chest. This time he replied very quickly, "So you also know how to care about me, huh? I thought that by changing your couple profile picture, you meant to draw a clear line with me completely. But don't worry, I didn't intend to keep this child. I've scheduled an afternoon surgery." That last line of text was like a sudden thunderbolt that scared me out of my wits. I called his phone almost instantly. Awaiting for a long time, just when I thought he wouldn't answer again, the call went through. "Chu Chao, My voice was hoarse, carrying a trembling and pleading that I didn't even notice myself. "The child. I beg you not to abort it. That's our child." The other end of the phone was very quiet. I could hear a faint background sound, like a broadcast in a hospital corridor, and also the sound of a man urging in a low voice. It was Chen Qi. Chu Xiao remained silent for a few seconds. When he spoke, his tone was icy without a trace of warmth. "Chung Mo-chuan, what right do you have to beg me because of your suspicion, your lack of trust, and those underhanded tactics of yours? I am completely disappointed in you. I don't want to give birth to a child for a man who disappoints me so much and make myself suffer. Is that not okay? I'm telling you, even if you die in front of me right now, it won't change my decision. Don't call again." After saying that, the busy tone rang out again, clean and decisive. Holding my phone and listening to that icy, busy tone, I felt as if all my strength had been drained, slumping into my office chair with my vision going black and a buzzing sound in my ears. "He's going to abort the child. He's really going to abort our child just because I disappointed him. No, it's not because of me, it's because of Chen Qi, because he finally waited. for Chenchi to turn back around. So he can't wait to erase all traces related to me, including this child, and return to Chenchi's side without any burden, even if Chenchi won't marry him at all, even if Chenchi still has a wife. Enormous grief, anger, and despair submerge me like a tsunami. No. No, I can't let him do this. The child is innocent. That is the only real connection that exists in these absurd 7 years of mine. I stood up abruptly, ignoring the pain of my not yet healed leg injury, grabbed the car keys, and rushed out of the office. I must find him. I must stop him. Like a headless fly, I drove frantically through the obstetrics and gynecology departments of major hospitals across the city, but none had any appointment or medical record for Chu Chao. I tried to call him, but it wouldn't go through anymore. On WeChat, a piercing red exclamation mark appeared in front of the messages. He had blacklisted me again. Just when I was almost driven to despair, sitting like a wandering soul on a freezing bench outside the OBGYN department of a hospital, my phone rang. It was Chu Kiao. He called using a new number. With trembling hands, I picked up. The child has already been aborted. His voice came through the receiver, calm and without a ripple even, carrying a trace of relief. Your leg should have healed long ago, right? Stop acting. Drive over to the airport to pick us up at 6 o'clock sharp. By the way, clean up the house properly. What does it look like to have it in such a mess? For the next month, I need to nurse my body at home. Achi has no relatives in the country, so he'll temporarily live with us. Drive your SUV over. It has plenty of space. He has a lot of luggage. Don't ride your broken bicycle over to embarrass us. After saying that, without waiting for my response, he hung up the phone directly. I sat blankly on the bench, looking at the expectant mothers walking in and out of the OBGYN entrance and watching the husbands or family members by their sides taking care of them meticulously. The world was full of noise, but I felt as if my mute button had been pressed. I couldn't hear anything, couldn't feel anything except for a giant hole left in the location of my heart, with the cold wind howling through it. The very last faint flame went out, completely extinguished by a basin of ice water named Chu Chao, leaving not even ashes. Don't know how much time passed before the phone vibrated again. It was a WeChat location sent by Chu Chao, along with a few voice messages. Have you set off yet? Hurry up and stop dragging your feet. Don't make us wait for you. Why is your location still at a hospital, Chungmochuan? You didn't really do what Achi guessed, running all over the world? Trying to stop me, did you? Already guarded against this move of yours and deliberately went to a temporary clinic. Give up. Whether to give birth or not is my freedom. The more you pester like this, the more it makes me feel you're disgusting and terrifying. Chungmo Chuan, I'm warning you, when you pick us up later, have a better attitude. The three of us will live together from now on. If you dare to show Achi a long face, don't blame me for being ruthless. Clicked and listened to them one by one, yet my heart was strangely calm without any waves, just like a pool of stagnant water where even the largest stone couldn't cause the slightest ripple. I could even calmly type a reply, I won't target him. When had I ever targeted Chenchi? From beginning to end, it was them. Targeting me, humiliating me, and trampling my dignity under their feet to crush it. But I was too lazy to argue. It was meaningless. On the way to the airport, watching the street view retreating rapidly outside the window, I suddenly asked the system, the child is gone. The cultivation task counts as a complete failure, right? The system fell silent for a moment. From the core objective, yes. But from the task process, as long as the host has not been officially rejected by the target character and the host is still working to maintain the relationship, the system cannot temporarily judge it as a failure caused by the host's active abandonment. Therefore, the final punishment assessment will consider the host's subsequent performance. I see. It means I still have to keep acting now, acting until Chu Chao personally tells me to get lost, or does something even more extreme. Before the system can give me a good performance evaluation to strive for, a survival chance. How ridiculous. But for that tiny possibility of not being obliterated, it seemed I had no choice. At the airport, I waited for over 40 minutes before seeing Chu Chao and Chenchi's figures. Chu Giao was half held in Chenchi's arms, his face a bit pale, but his expression was relaxed, even joyful. It seems I didn't get chosen. After waiting at the airport for over 40 minutes, I finally saw Chu Chao and Chenchi's silhouettes. Chu Kiao was half held in Chenchi's arms, his face a bit pale, but his expression was relaxed, even joyful. Chenchi held him with one arm while pushing a huge suitcase with the other, and the two walked over whispering and laughing, looking just like an affectionate couple returning from a trip. Seeing me, the smile on Chu Qiao's face faded a bit. His brow furrowed habitually, and his critical gaze swept over me, especially showing undisguised disgust when he saw the crutches I was still leaning on. Chung Mo Chuan, you've really had enough, he said, accusing me right away. It's bad enough that you embarrass me at home, but you even lean on these broken crutches outside. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Wanting everyone to mock me and think my boyfriend is a cripple. I looked at him silently without speaking. Chen Chi, acting kind-hearted, advised, Little Chow, don't say that. Mr. Chang's leg injury might not have fully healed yet. And no matter what we should say, thank you for the trouble. He took to pick us up today. He looked at me with a warm, proper smile on his face, but deep in his eyes there was an imperceptible trace of condescension. Mr. Chung, thank you for your hard work. I've always felt bad about the last car accident. And this time we're troubling you again? I'm really sorry. Little Chiao has a straightforward temper. Please don't take it to heart. What a display of reason and understanding. In comparison, I looked even more like a narrow-minded loser. Hearing this, Chu Chiao naturally felt Chen Chi was even better and grew more dissatisfied with me. Chi, you're just too kind-hearted. Why say so much to this kind of person? Let's go. Where's the car parked? I called a ride, I said. Called a ride? Chu Chao's voice immediately raised like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Chung Mo Chuan, what? Do you mean I told you to drive over to pick us up and you called a crappy Didi? What do you mean by that? It smells like everything. In there, it's filthy. I'm not riding in it. He held Chen Chi's arm and stomped his foot. Chi, let's wait for him to go back and drive the car over himself. Whoever wants to ride in this crappy car can ride in it. Oh, Chen. She patted his hand to comfort him. Forget it. Little Chow, just make do with it. I remember back then, just to come see me, you even squeezed into a hard seat on a green-skin train for 10 hours. Just bear with it a bit this time, okay? I'll hold you while we sit. Chu Chao's face turned slightly red and he gave me a glare, no longer insisting. I turned around and silently led the way in front. The injury on my leg had actually healed long ago. The system had helped me repair it before. Although the process was so painful, it felt like breaking and resetting. The bones, I still used the crutches. Perhaps it was a ridiculous stubbornness, reminding myself that I had truly suffered pain. Walking to the ride-hailing car, Chu Chao looked at that ordinary white sedan and muttered another round of complaints, but under Chen Chi's comfort, he still reluctantly got into the back seat. Chen Chi naturally put his arm around him as they sat inside. Even though the space was clearly spacious, he insisted on pulling him into his embrace. Chu Hao struggled slightly before submissively leaning on his shoulder, complaining in a low voice. The seat covers of this car definitely haven't been washed. They smell. I need to take a good bath when we get back. Chen Chi laughed softly. Okay, I'll draw the bath water for you when we get back. The two spoke in low whispers in the back seat, completely acting as if I didn't exist. I sat in the passenger seat, watching the scenery, rushing past outside the window, listening to the faint warmth coming from behind, only feeling that all of this was as absurd as a clumsy farce and I was the only fool who took the act seriously. Returning home the moment the door opened, Chu Chao's brow furrowed again. Chung Mo Chuan, what did I tell you on the phone? Clean up the house properly? Look at what's on this table. Gauze, medicine bottles, cotton swabs, making it look like a hospital ward. How disgusting. He pointed at the living room coffee table and the medical waste on the floor that I hadn't had time to fully clean up, speaking furiously. Also, I'm tired. Hurry up and cook stew a chicken soup. I need to nourish my body. Chi is also hungry. Make something he likes to eat. His imposing manner made it seem as if I were a servant he hired. Chen Chi patted his back. Little Chiao, don't always order Mr. Chung around. How about we go out to eat? No, Chu? Kaiao objected immediately. You just got off the plane and you're tired. How can outside food be as clean and healthy as home-cooked food? Besides, he eats ours and lives in ours now. So what's wrong with making a meal? It's only right. Eating theirs and living in theirs, in this home where every single corner bore the traces of my meticulous care, I had already become the one living under someone else's roof. I glanced at him without refuting, turned around silently, and went into the kitchen. Opening the refrigerator, it was mostly empty. Obviously, for this past month, he hadn't really cooked at home. I took out the only remaining chicken and a few vegetables, began washing and cutting them, and prepared to stew the soup. Behind me came Chu Kiao's voice, carrying a bit of a showing-off tone, speaking to Chen Chi. See, Chi, I told you, no matter how much I scold him or talk about him, he won't really get angry. He will still obediently listen to me. This is the only good thing about him. Chen Chi chuckled softly. Yeah, Mr. Chung's temper is truly good. Little Chow, you are blessed. What blessing? Chu Chao's tone carried disdain. He's just a block of wood with no sense of romance, and he always likes to play petty tricks. If it weren't for romantic flair, and always likes to play petty tricks otherwise. If it weren't for sigh, forget it. Let's not bring it up. Their conversation drifted clearly into the kitchen. The hand I used to hold the kitchen knife paused slightly. And then I continued chopping the ginger slices with force, the sound of the blade hitting the cutting board, sounding slightly heavy and dull. When the fragrance of the chicken soup gradually filled the air, Chu Chao suddenly walked into the kitchen, the expression on his face looking a bit unnatural. Is the food ready, you guys? Can eat by yourselves. His voice was lower than before and his eyes shifted a bit. Achi is in a bad mood and wants to go out to clear his head. I'm going with him. Don't wait up for us tonight. If it's too late, we might not come back. He paused for a moment as if remembering something and added, Achi only has me as an acquaintance here. I can't just leave him all by himself, right? I turned off the stove, turned around and looked into his eyes. He avoided my gaze awkwardly, tugging at the corner of his clothes. Chu Chao? I spoke calmly. Your body needs rest right now. You just finished the abortion surgery, so it's not suitable for you to run around, let alone stay up late. Like his tail had been stepped on, his brows instantly shot up. I know my own body perfectly well. I don't need your fake kindness, Chung Chuan. Do you want to control me again? I'm telling you I find you annoying just by looking at you now. Also, his tone softened a bit, using that charity-giving manner. I know you feel uncomfortable in your heart, but there's really nothing between me and Aichi. We're just old friends having some drinks. You're so generous, you can definitely understand, right? Looking at his performance, I suddenly found it very ridiculous. Go ahead, I said. Have fun, but I emphasized my tone. You just had an abortion, so don't drink alcohol and don't eat raw, cold, or irritating food. The body is your own. If you don't cherish it, no one will feel the pain for you. A flicker of complexity flashed across his face, looking like guilt, yet also like anger. In the end, he said nothing, turned around, and quickly left the kitchen. A moment later, the sound of the door closing came from outside. I was left alone in the house once again, along with the gradually cooling fragrance of chicken soup filling the room. That night, they indeed did not come back. Past 1 o'clock in the morning, was still completely wide awake, the phone screen lit up in the dark. It was a moment's post from Chen Chi, a short video. The camera shook a bit, and the background looked like a booth in some high-end bar, with blurry lights. Chu Chao leaned in Chen Chi's arms, his cheeks flushed and his eyes hazy, clearly having drunk a lot. He complained to the camera, his voice carrying drunkenness and grievance. Chi, I regret it so much. I knew that you would come back to find me one day. I said, I would never be with Chung Chuan. Back then, I only agreed to be with him because you went abroad and didn't want me anymore. I did it out of spite. It just so happened that back then another girl liked him, so I just snatched him away. For 7 years, I just treated him like a simp. Summoning him when needed and throwing him away when done worked pretty well. It was fun. But the moment you came back, I wished he would disappear instantly. Disappear from before my eyes right away. The video ended here. The text Chenchi captioned it with was, he drank too much and it's all drunk talk. But the truth is often hidden in drunkenness, isn't it? Below it, there were already quite a few likes and comments from mutual friends. Most of them were rich second-generation kids from the social circle, and the comments were unbearable to look at. Brother Chi's charm is no less than back then. Is the young master rekindling an old flame? What about Chung Chuan, that simp? What do you mean, what about him? Kick him out? Of course, he was just a backup tire to begin with. Now that the real deal is back, why keep a backup tire? Ha 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 ha, I saved the video. I'll send it to Chung Chuan tomorrow for him to enjoy. Looking at this moment's post, the position of my heart could no longer feel any pain. There was only a patch of icy, cold numbness. I silently gave it a like, then turned off the phone and went to sleep. My tears had already dried up long ago. What was left was only the calmness after completely giving up hope. The next morning, I was awakened by the continuous ringing of my phone and WeChat notification sounds. It was Chu Yao. Over a dozen missed calls, dozens of unread voice messages and text messages. Chung Chuan, what? Do you mean giving a like on Aichi's moments in the middle of the night? You did it on purpose, didn't you? If you have any dissatisfaction, come at me. Don't play. These petty tricks behind our backs. How low? Get up right now. Drive over to the hotel and pick me up. I sent you the location. Chung Chuan, are you deaf? Or reply to me. I glanced at the time. It was past 8 in the morning. It seemed they really stayed at a hotel last night. I sluggishly washed up and changed my clothes, and only then did I pick up my phone and reply. Just woke up. The phone was on silent. The other side replied almost instantly. Cut the crap and hurry over, I've given you. Yet replied to me. I glanced at the time. It was just past 8 in the morning. It looks like they really stayed at a hotel last night. I sluggishly washed up and changed clothes before finally picking up my phone to reply. Just woke up, the phone was on silent. The other side replied almost instantly. Cut the crap and get over here right now. I'll give 20 minutes. I didn't reply again. On the way to the hotel, I even stopped at a breakfast shop, bought some soy milk and fried dough sticks, and ate them unhurriedly. When I arrived, downstairs at the hotel, I didn't go up. I sent him a message telling him I had arrived. After waiting for nearly half an hour, Chu Chao finally came down with a dark face. Chen Chi wasn't with him. As soon as he got in the car, he questioned me, Chung Mo Chuan. What did that like of yours last night mean? Who are you acting all passive-aggressive for? My eyes were on the road ahead as I drove. It didn't mean anything. I saw it, so I liked it. You saw it. He raised his voice. You saw it. But couldn't you just pretend you didn't see it? You just had to like it. Are you trying to seem very generous? Or are you deliberately trying to disgust me? I remained silent. He got even angrier. Chung Mo Chuan, speak up. Don't play dumb with me. Chu Tiao. I spoke slowly, my voice calm and without a ripple. The things posted on Chen Chi's moments were posted by himself. The words spoken in the video were said by you yourself. I merely gave it a like, nothing more. If you feel disgusted by it, perhaps you should ask yourselves why you had to do and say things that are so disgusting. Choked by my words, Chu Chao's face turned completely red, his chest heaving violently. Fine, Chung Mo Chuan, now your wings have hardened, right? You actually dare to talk to me like this. I'm telling you, Aichi just casually posted on Moments to record his life. But your own mind is so dark that you find issues with everything you see. Also, in the video, I was just talking nonsense because I drank too much. It can't be taken seriously. Chung Mo Chuan, let me say this one more time. Achi's position in my heart will always be very special. Without his departure back then, there would be no chance for you. In a sense, he is the one who fulfilled you. Don't be ungrateful. I nodded. I see. My compliance and numbness seemed to make his punch hit cotton, leaving him even more frustrated. He took a few deep breaths, seemingly trying hard to calm his emotions, and then his tone softened slightly, even carrying a rare hint of weakness. Mo Chuan, he called my name, reaching his hand over as if wanting to take my hand, but shrank it back before touching me. You are also very important to me. I just hope you can get along well with Aichi, and don't always target him. He hasn't had a good time abroad these past few years. His marriage was rough and he suffered a lot. Now that he has returned to the country, I am his only friend. If I don't take care of him, who will? You've always been the most generous one, so you can definitely understand me, right? I didn't speak. He probed again, asking, Mo Chuan, do you really dislike Aichi staying at our home that much? If you really mind, then I'll go stay at a hotel with him. As he spoke, he observed my expression, his tone carrying grievance and difficulty. But he's living outside all alone. I really can't worry. I promise you I'll just stay with him for a period of time. Once he finds a suitable house and settles down, I'll come back. Do you think that's okay? I'm trying very hard to consider your feelings. Mo Chuan, can you feel it? I looked at the road ahead, the corners of my mouth hooking into a mocking curve. Retreating in order to advance, he knew me too well, knowing to use a self-sacrificing posture to make a demand. The old me would highly likely compromise out of heartache and even turn around to comfort him and tell him not to make things difficult. Unfortunately, the current Chung Mo Chuan is already dead. I nodded, my tone flat and without a ripple. Go stay with him then. It's fine on my end. He seemed to freeze for a moment, not expecting me to agree so readily. He carefully looked at my expression, trying to find traces of spite or displeasure from it, but there was nothing. On my face, there was only a patch of deep pool-like calmness. This actually made him a bit uneasy. Mo Chuan, are you really not angry? He asked carefully. Not angry, I said. He finally breathed a sigh of relief, a smile appearing on his face, and he even actively leaned over to plant a quick kiss on my cheek. Mo Chuan, I just like how reasonable you are. Don't worry, I'll just stay with him for a while and we'll be back. Very soon. His tone grew light and cheerful, carrying the joy of achieving a goal. After arriving home, he indeed began to pack his luggage, his movements nimble with an excitement on his face that couldn't be hidden. I sat on the sofa quietly, watching his busy figure from behind, watching him pack the clothes and items that he and Chen Chi might use one by one into that huge suitcase. To him, this home had perhaps long been just a temporary inn to rest his feet, and I was that submissive in-service worker. Mo Chuan, I'm leaving. Contact me by phone if anything comes up. Dragging the suitcase, he walked to the door, turned around, waved to me, and smiled brightly. Yeah, I responded. The door closed and the room became completely quiet, with only the occasional sound of traffic from outside the window reminding me that this world was still turning. I leaned back into the sofa and closed my eyes. The system asked me softly, Host, do you Leaning back on the sofa and closing my eyes, the system softly asked me, "Host, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied in my heart. How much longer until the task completely fails? According to the analysis of the target character's current behavior patterns and emotional feedback toward the host, the critical point is close. Perhaps it only lacks one final catalyst. What will it be? I suddenly felt a bit curious, wanting to end this torture as soon as possible. That night, past 11 o'clock, I had already gone to bed when the phone rang. It was Chu Qiao. His voice came through the receiver carrying a forced gentleness and a trace of imperceptible weakness. "Mochuan, are you asleep? Could I bother you to make some stomach-nourishing porridge and bring it over? My stomach feels a bit uncomfortable and I really want to drink the porridge you make. Could you also buy some stomach medicine for me on the way? Please, I think I caught a cold and my stomach hurts terribly." His voice was soft-filled with pleading. If it were before, my heart would have broken instantly and I would have jumped up, made the porridge in the shortest time possible, and flown to his side. But now I only felt a surge of nausea. Even imagining that on the other end of the line, he might be leaning in Chenchi's arms calling me in this tone while Chenchi listened right next to him with a playful smile on his face. "Okay," I heard my own calm voice reply. "Send me the address." Thank you, Mo Chuan. You are the best." He cheerfully stated the hotel name and room number, then hung up the phone. I sat on the bed looking at the light of the phone screen in the dark. The system said softly, "Host, this is a chance to perform." "I know," I interrupted him, getting up to put on clothes, going to the kitchen to wash the rice and cook the porridge, my movements mechanical. Half an hour later, carrying the thermal container and the newly bought stomach medicine, I stood outside the hotel room door and rang the doorbell. After quite a while, the door finally opened. Chu Qiao was wearing the hotel's white bathrobe, his hair wet and loose over his shoulders, his face carrying a flush brought by the hot steam and his body emitting the fresh scent of shower gel. Seeing me, a perfectly timed expression of surprise and a hint of awkwardness appeared on his face. He had no intention of letting me in, merely taking the thermal container and the medicine, his fingertips accidentally brushing past the back of my hand. "Mochuan, sorry to make you run out so late." His voice was soft. "If my stomach didn't hurt so much that I couldn't take it, I wouldn't have troubled you at this hour." My gaze passed over him, catching a glimpse of the warm lights in the room along with a man's leather shoes and socks carelessly thrown on the floor. "Then go back and rest early." He issued an eviction notice, his body slightly blocking the doorway. Just then, Chenchi's lazy voice came from inside the room, carrying the hoarseness of someone who just woke up. "Little Chow is the takeout here." What took so long? Right after footsteps sounded and Chenchi appeared at the door. He was only wearing black briefs, his well-built upper body exposed, his hair slightly messy, and his face carrying a post-satisfaction laziness. Seeing me, his face perfectly displayed surprise and awkwardness, and then he quickly grabbed the other bathrobe hanging behind the door to put it on. "Mr. Chung, what brings you?" His tone was surprised, but his eyes were completely clear. "Little Chow, what's wrong with you? Just casually mentioned earlier that you used to say the stomach-nourishing porridge Mr. Chung makes tastes good. How could you really call him over in the middle of the night?" He turned to me, his face full of apology. "Mr. Chung, I'm really sorry. I just finished showering and haven't put on my clothes properly yet. Little Chow was helping me blow dry my hair. Please don't misunderstand." "Misunderstand?" I looked at the fresh hickey on his neck, looked at Chu Chao's instantly flushed face and dodging eyes, and looked at this room full of lustful atmosphere. What was there to misunderstand? Wasn't the truth already clear enough? Chu Chao frantically pulled at the collar of his bathrobe, stuffed the other bathrobe into Chenchi's hands, and said in a rushed tone, Chi, put it on quickly. Don't catch a cold. Mochuan, don't listen to his nonsense. I just had a stomach ache and the porridge shops outside are all closed. So that's why his incoherent explanation appeared. Pale and powerless, I suddenly felt very tired. I had seen enough of this play. Drink the porridge while it's hot, and take the medicine according to the instructions. I interrupted him, my voice calm and without a ripple. It's getting late. I'll head back first. You guys should also rest early. After saying that, I didn't look at either of them again, turning around to walk toward the elevator. Behind me came Chu Chao's anxious voice, calling my name along with Chen Chi's low-toned comfort. The elevator doors closed, cutting everything out of sight. The elevator wall reflected my expressionless face. The system said softly, Host, are you okay? I'm fine, I replied. My heart had already died long ago. Right. Now it was just watching his corpse get trampled a few more times. Did it hurt? It seemed I didn't feel anything anymore. Returning home, I didn't go to sleep right away, but sat in the dark living room, remembering something from a long time ago. It was not long after Chu Chao and I had just confirmed our relationship back when our feelings were at their best. Once he drank too much at a company gathering and I picked him up to go home. That night, He was exceptionally active and passionate, wrapping his arms around my neck, kissing me over and over again, breathing softly into my ear like orchids speaking drunk words that sounded like sweet nothings. Chung Mo Chuan, let's have a child. Let's give birth to a child just like you, a beautiful child. I want to give birth to your baby. That night, after our intense intimacy, he fell asleep exhausted in the latter half of the night. Carrying his sweat-drenched body, I went to the bathroom to carefully help him wash up and then used a hairdryer to blow dry his soft long hair bit by bit. When he woke up, he found himself clean and refreshed, lying on a clean bed with his hair fluffy and dry. Then, his face changed not in appreciation, but in anger and disgust. Chung Mo Chuan, who allowed you to touch me, he pushed me away forcefully, using the blanket to wrap himself tightly, his eyes cold and full of rejection. I was drunk, but were you drunk too? You don't have a single bit of sense? Of boundaries. Who told you to give me a bath and blow dry my hair? Did you get my permission? Just thinking about being touched like that by you while I was asleep makes me feel disgusted, and my whole body feels uncomfortable. Do you even understand what respect means? At that time, I felt as if I were struck by lightning, my whole heart full of tenderness and sweet love, instantly freezing. Leaving only helplessness and hurt. I desperately apologized and explained that I only wanted him to sleep more comfortably and had no malicious intent, but he ignored me for a whole 3 days, and the eyes he used to look at me carried malice. Later on, this matter became a sort of taboo between us that no one brought up again, but a knot always remained in my heart. Thought he was just shy or had some psychological barriers regarding intimate relationships, needing more time and patience. It wasn't until today, seeing Chenchi appearing at the door, wearing only briefs, seeing Chu Kiao's face completely red, yet handing him a bathrobe without hiding their intimacy, and seeing the obvious marks on Chenchi's neck, that I suddenly realized what psychological barrier he just didn't like. Me touching him, that was all. Or to be more precise, he didn't like me, this person touching him. So my touch, my care, and my intimacy were disgust and a lack of boundaries to him, while Chenchi's was a matter of course and an inability to control one's emotions. How ridiculous. 7 years of self-comfort, 7 years of treading on thin ice turned out to be nothing but a joke of self-deception. I even remembered one time when I sprained my arm. After taking a bath, it was inconvenient to blow dry my hair with one hand, so I wanted to ask him for help. He was browsing on his phone at the time. Without even raising his head, he said impatiently, "Don't you have hands yourself? How old are you? You still need help just to blow dry your hair? I don't have time." Contrasting that with tonight, where he was helping Chenchi blow dry his hair. What a sharp contrast. I couldn't help but ask the system in my mind, is the task still not at the failure threshold yet? The system fell silent for a moment. Soon, I can feel that the catalyst will happen within these 1 or 2 days. What if I choose to give up the task and leave directly right now? I asked. According to the rules, if the host actively gives up before the target character explicitly expels you or announces the termination of the relationship, it will be judged as passive task avoidance, actively leading to failure. The degree of punishment is the highest, with a deletion probability exceeding 99%. The system's voice was serious. Hosts endure it a little longer, for the sake of minimizing the punishment as much as possible at the end, and to stay alive. To stay alive, these 3 words locked me firmly like shackles within this nauseating plotline. I sat bitterly until dawn, finally forcing myself to lie down. In a half-dreaming, half-waking state, the phone vibrated. It was a message sent by Chu Qiao, a very long paragraph of text. The general idea was explaining that he and Chenchi really had nothing between them, that it was just old friends having some drinks. Chenchi was in a bad mood, so he accompanied him for a couple of drinks. Later, his stomach felt uncomfortable, so he let him enter the room to rest for a bit, and helped blow dry his hair along the way. He emphasized that his stomach really hurt and he wasn't lying to me. In the end, he said he hoped I wouldn't overthink it, told me to rest early, and said he would have a good talk with me tomorrow. After I finished reading it, I didn't even have the desire to reply directly, deleting the chat box. Have a talk tomorrow. Talk about what? Talk about how innocent he and Chenchi are? Talk about how petty and superfluous I am? Save it. The next day was the weekend. I went out very early to the company to work overtime handling the backlog of work at hand, and then soaked in the gym for the whole afternoon until I was utterly exhausted before heading home. When I reached home, it was already past 11 o'clock at night. Pushing open the house door, the living room, lights were on. Chu Qiao was curled up on the sofa, hugging his knees, his eyes red as if he had cried. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he raised his head to look at me, his gaze complex. Chung Mo Chuan, he took the initiative to strike first. So you still know how to come back. Look at what time it is now. O'clock. I changed my shoes and ignored him. I'm asking you a question. He raised his voice. Yesterday, you promised perfectly well that you weren't angry. But what happened? You've been MIA the entire day today, not picking up calls, not replying to messages. What do you mean by this? Giving me a silent treatment on purpose? Is that it? I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of water, took a sip, and only then looked at him. I was working overtime. My voice was flat. Working overtime until 11 at night. Who are you fooling? He stood up, walked in front of me, looked up at my face, and glared at me. Chung Mo-chuan, did you go find that Teru Teru Bozu lover? Again, I checked. It's a woman, right? Hooked up with her long ago, didn't you? That's why you're so impatient with me and dare to stay out all night. Teru Teru Bozu? I froze for a moment, only then remembering that birthday email. He actually went and checked my email logs. Chu Chiao. I put down the water cup and looked at him. Between us right now, who is actually the one staying out all night? Who is staying at a hotel with another man and opening the door while wearing a bathrobe? Who is posting that kind of video on Moments saying they wish I disappear? He choked on his words, embarrassment flashing across his face, but it was immediately covered by an even greater rage. I already explained it to you. That was a misunderstanding. It was because Aichi was in a bad mood and nothing happened between us. The video was just drunk. Nonsense. You're a grown man. Why do you keep gripping onto this and not letting go, Chung Mo-chuan? You weren't like this before. You said you would always love me and always tolerate me. You said you came to this world for me. Why have you become so petty and so unreasonable now? As he spoke, the rims of his eyes grew even redder, his voice carrying a sob as if he had suffered an immense grievance. It was this routine again, using my past promises to hijack the current, me using his tears and grievances to cover up his mistakes and betrayal. I suddenly felt very tired, so tired that I didn't even have the strength to argue. Chu Chiao, I interrupted. His weeping complaints, my voice exhausted. If you think I'm unreasonable, then let's separate. That way you won't have to endure my pettiness and can openly and legitimately go accompany your Aichi. The moment the words, let's separate, left my mouth, I saw his pupils shrink fiercely and that aggrieved expression on his face instantly froze, replaced by an incredulous shock. What did you say? His voice trembled. Chung Mo-chuan, you want to break up with me? Otherwise, I jerked the corners of my mouth. Keep torturing each other like this. Watching you run to Chenchi time after time and then come back to tell me you two are innocent, Chu Chiao. I am not a fool and I am tired too. No way. He suddenly rushed over, tightly grabbing my arm, his fingernails almost digging into my flesh. I don't agree, Chung Mo-chuan, you cannot break up with me. Didn't you say you were born for me? Didn't you say you would love me for a lifetime? If you leave, what will I do? I only have you in this world. His tears rolled down in large drops, crying with genuine emotion, as if I were truly the one abandoning him rather than him constantly trampling on my feelings. Looking at him like this, there wasn't half a ripple in my heart, only a deeper disgust. Chu Chiao, I pried his fingers away one by one, my voice icy. You're only having me means keeping me on the hook while reliving old dreams with Chenchi. It means aborting my child. And then making me pick you guys up to move in together. It means opening the door for him while wearing a bathrobe and letting him appear before me wearing only briefs. The price for your only having me is a bit too high. I can't afford it. No, it's not like that. He shook his head frantically, crying so hard he was gasping for breath. Mo-chuan, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I will never see Aichi again in the future. I'll cut things off with him completely. I beg you not to leave me. I can't live without you. He lunged forward, wanting to hug me, but I stepped aside to dodge him. He lunged into empty air, stumbled, and stared at me blankly, his eyes full of despair. Mo-chuan, his voice was broken, give me another chance. Just one last time. I promise I will change. Let's live well together, just like before, okay? I looked at his face smudged with tears, my heart containing only a patch of desolation. Chu Chiao, we could never go back long ago. From the moment you ran to Chenchi without hesitation, we couldn't go back. It's good that the child is gone. At least it's clean between us. After saying that, I didn't look at him again, turning around to walk toward the bedroom. Chung Mo-chuan, he screamed behind me, his voice sharp and piercing. You cannot treat me like this. You can't. I didn't turn back, closing the bedroom door and locking him and everything he brought out of the room. Leaning my back against the cold door panel, I heard the sound of his suppressed crying and things being smashed outside. But my heart was entirely calm. The system said softly, Host, the critical point seems to have arrived, but it also seems to be missing just a tiny bit. The target character's emotional value fluctuation towards you is extremely violent, but the command to completely give up or expel you has not yet been issued, just a tiny bit short. I frowned. What exactly needs to happen to count as complete? Do I really have to see them with my own eyes? To catch them in the act? This thought caused a surge of nausea in my stomach. Just then, the phone vibrated. It was a new message from an unknown number. Dr. Cheng, sorry to disturb you so late. This is Shen Qingyue. I wonder if you still remember me. 7 years ago, you were my attending doctor. I just returned to the country to take over some business of our family company and saw your name on the employee list. I wonder if you are free tomorrow. I'd like to invite you to a meal to thank you in person for your help back then. If it's inconvenient, please ignore this message. Best wishes, Shen Qingyue. That, Teru Bozu. I stared at this polite and thoughtful message, feeling a bit surprised. She returned to the country and she's at our company. The system timely spoke up host. The new target who will pursue you is already in position. Once the current task is determined to have failed, the new task will automatically be activated. Please get ready, host. The new target who will pursue me is Shen Qingyue, so the reduced punishment I earned by performing well is changing from an abused target who pursues others into an object being pursued by someone else. Talk about what goes around comes around. I pinched the bridge of my nose and replied, Hello, Miss Shen. I remember. No need to be polite. Tomorrow at noon, I'm free. You decide the place. The message was replied to very quickly, carrying a trace of imperceptible joy. Great. Then tomorrow at noon at 12 o'clock at the Yunjing restaurant downstairs from the company, is that okay? Sure. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Dr. Cheng. Followed by a small smiley face emoji. Putting down the phone, I listened to the crying and commotion outside that were gradually quieting down. A strange premonition suddenly arose in my heart. The storm might really be coming. And after the storm, will there be a new beginning I didn't know? But no matter what, it wouldn't be any worse than now. The next day was Monday. I got up early. Chu Qiao was still curled up on the sofa sleeping. Her face carrying tear stains and dark circles under her eyes, looking haggard and miserable. I didn't wake her up. After washing up and changing clothes, I went straight to the company. A busy morning of work actually made me forget about those depressing matters. At 11:50 noon, I arrived at Yunjing restaurant right on time. This was a quite famous private restaurant with an elegant environment and a high cost. After reporting the name Shen Qingyue reserved, the waiter led me to a quiet booth by the window. A person was already sitting in the seat. Hearing the sound of footsteps, she raised her head. My footsteps paused slightly. It was her, but she also looked a bit different. 7 years ago, that autistic girl who didn't dare to look into people's eyes had now completely transformed. She was wearing a simple white western skirt suit, her long hair elegantly tied up, revealing a clean forehead and a beautiful neck. Her facial features were exquisite, wearing decent light makeup. Her skin was fair, her temperament calm and capable, and her eyes were clear and bright, carrying a kind of composure that came from being in a high position for a long time yet, without making people feel distant. Seeing me, she immediately stood up, her face spreading a sincere and warm smile with two shallow dimples appearing on her cheeks. Dr. Chung, long time no see. She extended her hand, her voice gentle and pleasant. I stepped forward and lightly shook hands with her. Miss Shen, long time no see. You've changed a lot. I almost didn't recognize you. Is it a change for the better or for the worse? She winked playfully, gesturing for me to sit down. Of course, it's for the better, I said sincerely. I am very happy to see you like this now. This was the truth. As the doctor who once treated her, seeing her step out of the haze and live such a wonderful and confident life brought a sense of gratification like watching a flower I carefully nurtured finally blooming. Thank you so much, Dr. Cheng. She sat down looking at me very seriously. If it weren't for you pulling me up back then, I might have long ago. She didn't finish, but we both understood the meaning. It was my duty. I shook my head. That you were able to step out relies mainly on your own courage and hard work. But it was you who first gave me the courage, making me believe that I could still work hard. Her gaze was too sincere and burning, making me a bit unable to handle it, so I had to change the subject. I picked up the menu. Let's order first and see what you'd like to eat. In the gap of waiting after ordering the food, we chatted about our recent situations. She was indeed the newly transferred executive vice president of the company, my direct superior. Returning to the country this time on one hand was to take over the domestic business. On the other hand, she also wanted to break away from the family's main overseas industries to carve out her own world. I know you've been doing very well in the planning department, she said with a smile. I've looked at several projects you led. They are very thoughtful. In the future, I will have to rely on you a lot regarding work. VP Shen, you flatter me. It's just my duty, I said politely. Don't call me VP Shen in private. She waved her hand. Just call me Qingyue. Dr. Cheng, can I call you? Yu Mo Chuan, I always feel like calling you Dr. Cheng makes it seem like we are still in the treatment room. His tone was relaxed with a joking manner dissolving the potential awkwardness. Of course you can. I nodded. Mo Chuan, he called out naturally and then paused for a moment, his tone becoming slightly more serious. Actually, besides thanking you, there's another thing I wanted to invite you out for today. He seemed to hesitate a bit, weighing his words. It's regarding Miss Chu. Kiao. He finally said it, observing my facial expression. I inadvertently found out about some things. Have you two not been very happy lately? The hand I used to hold the water cup paused slightly. He knew. How did he know? Seeing the doubt in my eyes, he quickly explained. Don't misunderstand. I didn't deliberately pry. It's Chen-Chi. He has some business dealings with my husband. My husband heard him mention some rather unpleasant things. When he mentioned his husband, his tone was very flat, as if speaking about an insignificant person. I heard that Miss Chu seems to be walking very close with Chen-Chi, and he paused, seemingly finding it a bit hard to bring up, and even had an abortion surgery for you. I put down the water cup, looked at the heavy traffic outside the window, and fell silent for a few seconds. It's all in the past, I said. Mo Chuan. His voice softened, carrying a trace of imperceptible heartache. Perhaps there are some words I shouldn't say, but as a friend, I hope you can be well. The matter between Chu Chao and Chen Chi is already no secret in their social circle. Chen Chi is a person with very deep thoughts. He might not truly be unable to forget his old feelings for Chu Chao. He might just enjoy the feeling of being worshipped or be using Chu Chao to stimulate his wife. His wife? I looked at him. Shenqing Yue nodded. Xia An. You should know that there have always been problems with their marriage. Lately, they've been in a deadlock, seemingly negotiating divorce terms. Chen Chi, approaching Chu Chao at this time when he returned to the country, does not have a pure motive. He looked at me, his eyes honest. Mo Chuan, I know you have very deep feelings for Chu Chao, but some people are not worth it. Timely cutting of losses is sometimes not cowardice, but wisdom. And furthermore, being responsible for yourself. Listening to his words, my heart was a mixed bag of emotions, so it turned out that even an outsider could see it clearly. Only, I had been indulged in it for 7 years of self-deception. Thank you for telling me these things, Qing Yue. I took a deep breath. Chu Chao and I have already ended. Shen? Qing Yue seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, yet also seemed a bit surprised that I was so resolute. That's good then, he smiled. From now on, in the company, we are purely superior and subordinate. Privately, I hope we can become friends. Is that okay? His eyes were clear, carrying a cautious anticipation. I could not reject such kindness. Of course, I nodded. This meal was eaten very pleasantly. Shen Qingyue was very good at chatting, knowledgeable with the unique insights, yet without giving people a pretentious vibe. We chatted about work industry trends and also some lighthearted anecdotes. Time flew by very quickly. When separating, he hesitated. For a bit, but still said, Mo Chuan, if in the future you need to vent or need help with anything, you can find me anytime. Don't carry it all by yourself. Okay, I responded. Thank you today, Qing Yue. Returning to the company, I continued to stay busy in the afternoon. Close to off-work hours, I received a call from Chu Chao. His voice sounded very calm, even a bit gentle. Mo Chuan, come home to eat tonight. I bought groceries and will cook personally. I froze for a moment. Cooking personally, this was an extremely rare thing for him. In recent years, the number of times he cooked could be counted on one hand. I have to work overtime tonight. I said, don't work overtime just this once. His tone carried a plea. Come on, let's have a good talk. I really know I was wrong. Give me a chance to make it up, okay? Listening to his words, there was no moved feeling in my heart, only vigilance. What scheme was he plotting again? Whatever words you have can also be said over the phone. I said flatly. Mo Chuan. His voice carried a crying tone. Do you hate me that much? Is it not even possible to meet up once? I promise we'll just have a meal. After eating, if you want to leave, I will absolutely not stop you. Consider it as me begging you for the last time. He cried very sorrowfully. I pinched the bridge of my nose, and in the end, I still hardened my resolve. It wasn't that my heart had softened, but rather I wanted to see what kind of play he still wanted to act out, and also wanted to put a complete period to this absurdity that had lasted for 7 years. Okay, I'll get home around 8. I'll wait for you. He instantly turned tears into a smile, his voice growing light and cheerful. Hanging up the phone, I looked at the gradually darkening twilight outside the window, my heart entirely cold. The system said softly, Host. After listening, it might be the final catalyst. Please be absolutely cautious. I understood the system's meaning. What should come will always come. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I pushed open the house door right on time. Unexpectedly, the house was brightly lit. The dining table was covered with a clean tablecloth set with exquisite bowls and dishes, and in the middle there was even a bottle of red wine and two goblets. The air was filled with the fragrance of food. Chu Chao poked his head out from the kitchen wearing an apron with a gentle smile on his face. "You're back, wash your hands first. There's still one soup and it'll be ready in a minute." He looked much better in complexion and had even put on light makeup wearing a lotus pink dress I gave him a long time ago. I silently went to wash my hands and sat down at the dining table. Soon he brought out the last soup, took off his apron, and sat opposite me. "Try it, they are all your favorite dishes," he said with a smile, his eyes looking somewhat expectant, yet also a bit nervous. I looked at the full table of dishes. Indeed, they were all the dishes I used to cook for him frequently. I picked up my chopsticks and took a piece of rib. The taste was mediocre, not bad, but absolutely nowhere near being very delicious. "How is it?" he asked cautiously. "It's all right." I put down my chopsticks. He seemed a bit disappointed, but quickly perked up, again stood up, poured half a glass of red wine, handed it to me, and then poured half a glass for himself. "Mo Chuan." He raised his wine glass, looking at me with sincere eyes. "With this glass of wine, I toast you for all my past willfulness that hurt you and solemnly apologize to you." "I'm sorry, Mo Chuan." After saying that, he threw his head back and drank the wine in his glass in one gulp. Then the rims of his eyes turned red again. "Mo Chuan, these past few days when you weren't home, I thought about a lot of things by myself. I remembered when we first met. I was so terrible, yet you always stayed by my side and encouraged me. I remembered when my depression flared up and I used a knife to cut myself. It was you who held the blade with your hand bleeding so much, yet still smiling and saying it was fine. It didn't hurt. I remembered that every time I was sad and broke down, it was you who held me and told me you were there not to be afraid. I remembered every single meal you cooked for me, every single surprise you prepared, and every single I love you said over these 7 years." His tears fell, his voice choking with sobs. "Mo Chuan, I know I was wrong and wrong beyond measure. I took your kindness to me as a matter of course and took your love as capital that I could squander recklessly. I was blinded by the news of Chen Chi's return. I thought that was love found again, a dream I had waited 7 years for. But it wasn't until you really wanted to leave me, until I lay in this home without you, that I realized." He cried so hard he couldn't speak coherently. "That I realized I long ago couldn't live without you. Chung Mo Chuan, you have long since become a part of my life, become my habit and my air. Without you, I simply cannot survive." He stood up, stumbled to my side, squatted down to grab my hand, and looked up at me with his tear-stained face. "Mo Chuan, give me another chance. Okay, I swear I will never see Chen Chi again. I've deleted all his contact information. In the future, my heart and eyes will only have you alone. We will get married. We'll go get the certificate tomorrow. I'll give birth to babies for you, give birth to many, many babies. We'll live our lives well together and make up for everything we owed in the past. I beg you, Mo Chuan, don't throw me away." He cried heartbreakingly with genuine emotion. If I had seen him crying like this half a month ago, my heart would probably have broken completely and I would have immediately held him and forgiven all his faults. But now, my heart was entirely calm, and I even felt a bit like laughing. What a familiar drama, slapping me once and then giving me a sweet date. I pulled back. My hand looked at his instantly frozen expression and slowly spoke. "Chu Chao, stop acting." His crying stopped abruptly, tears still hanging on his face, but his eyes were a bit frantic. "Mo Chuan, what did you say? I'm not acting. Everything I said is from the bottom of my heart." "From the bottom of your heart." I gave a light laugh, pointing at the dining table. "You making this full table of dishes to apologize to me and begging me for forgiveness is from the bottom of your heart. Of course." He nodded vigorously. Then I looked at him. "Tell me, where were you between 3 and 5 o'clock this afternoon, and who were you with?" Chu Chao's face instantly turned, deathly pale, his eyes flickering, not daring to meet my gaze. "I was at home preparing dinner." His voice sounded weak. "At home?" I took out my phone, clicked on a photo, and held it before him. The photo was something Shenqing Yue casually sent to me in the afternoon. He and a female friend were having afternoon tea at a certain high-end shopping mall. In the background, it just happened to capture the jewelry counter diagonally opposite. Standing in front of the counter were two intimately leaning figures, Chen Chi and Chu Qiao. Chen Chi was holding a diamond necklace and trying it against Chu Qiao's neck. Chu Qiao was looking up at him, his smile sweet and shy. Time 3:47 p.m. Sent time 4:10 p.m. Shenqing Yue added a line at that time. "The world is really small." It seems Mr. Chen's methods for coaxing people are still so old-fashioned, but it seems quite effective. Chu Chao looked at the photo, his lips trembling, unable to say a single word. Is this what you meant by never seeing him again? Retook my phone, my voice icy. Is this your... Putting away the phone, my voice cold. So this is your meaning of only having me in your heart and eyes. Chu Chao, your sincerity is simply too cheap and too fickle. No, it's not like that. He frantically grabbed my arm. Mochuan, listen to my explanation. He was the one who insisted on looking for me. He said he wanted to apologize and give me a gift to say sorry. I just found it hard to refuse. I brushed off his hand, stood up, and looked down at him. Chu Chao, do you take me for a 3-year-old child? On one hand, you make me a dinner of atonement, crying and begging for my forgiveness, while on the other hand, you secretly run off to date Chen Qi and accept the diamond necklace he gave you. Just how many sincere hearts do you have, and how many acts are you planning to put on? He collapsed onto the floor, the blood draining from his face, leaving only a patch of gray despair. He knew that his final performance had been completely exposed by me. Mochuan, he murmured. My name, his eyes hollow. How did you know? Did you hire someone to follow me? I'm not that free, I said coldly. Chu Chao, there is no wall in this world that doesn't leak air. That little matter between you and Chen Qi has long been an open joke. Only I was kept in the dark like a fool, still fantasizing that you guys would turn back. I walked to the door and picked up my coat. Keep this dinner for yourself to eat slowly. This is the end for us. Tomorrow I will look for a house and move out. I'll leave this house to you. Except for my personal belongings, you can dispose of everything else. From now on, you walk your bridge and I'll walk my road. Let's not contact each other again. After saying that, I pulled open the door and walked out without looking back. Behind me came Chu Chao's broken wailing and the sound of bowls and dishes being swept to the floor and smashing. But in my heart, there was only a patch of relief after liberation. This 7-year-long relationship had finally ended, finally drawing a period. Walking out of the building, the night breeze was slightly cool. I took a deep breath, feeling that the ball of foul air that had been stuck in my chest for so long seemed to have dissipated a bit. The phone vibrated. It was a message from Shen Qingyue. Mochuan, sorry. Did that photo this afternoon cause trouble for you? I didn't expect to capture them. I hope it didn't affect your mood. I looked at the screen, thought about it, and replied, no, on the contrary, it helped. It me a big favor. Thank you. That's good then. He replied very quickly, followed by a small smiley face emoji. See you tomorrow? See you tomorrow. Putting away the phone, I raised my head to look at the night sky. There were no stars, only the deep blue sky reflected by the city lights, but I knew the dark clouds would eventually disperse. Tomorrow would be a new day, and I also should start a new life. The next day, I didn't go to the company, but directly contacted an agent to start looking for a house. I didn't want to spend another single second in that home filled with unbearable memories. The agent's efficiency was very high. In the afternoon, they took me to see a bachelor apartment not far from the company. I signed the contract and paid the rent on the spot. Then I went back to pack my things. Chu Chao wasn't home, not knowing where he had gone. That was fine too, avoiding the awkwardness of seeing each other again and possible pestering. My things were actually not many. Most of them were bought for that home over the past 7 years, filled with our traces. I only packed some necessary relics, personal ID documents, my laptop, and a few personal items of commemorative significance, like the printout of that Teru Teru Bozu birthday email. 2 suitcases were enough to pack up my 7 years of life. Taking one last look at this home I had run for 7 years, there was no reluctance in my heart, only a patch of indifference. Closing the door, I pressed the elevator button. While the elevator was moving down, the long-lost voice of the system sounded, carrying a trace of being relieved of a heavy burden. Detected that target character Chu Chao's emotional value toward the host has completely cleared to 0, accompanied by a strong feeling of resentment. Detected that the host has actively left the shared living environment with the target character, expressing the intention to completely terminate the relationship. Comprehensive judgment. The pursuit, task to redeem the female supporting character Chu Chao has failed. Beginning task settlement, settling. According to the host's performance during the task period, early investment degree, 100% emotional output, degree 95%. In the later stage, while clearly knowing the task might fail, still complied with the pursuer code of conduct, maintained basic interactions, and did not commit extreme behaviors. Performance evaluation is good. Final punishment ruling exempt from deletion penalty. Execute B-level punishment plan. Clear the host's core memory regarding this. World's pursuit task, while retaining basic survival memories and skills. The host will continue to survive in this world as Cheng Mochuan. 948 vertical bar, new task module activated. Detected that the qualified reverse pursuer is already in position. New task, the redeemed ones continue to survive. A new task module has been activated. Detected that a qualified reverse pursuer is already in position. New task, the redeemed ones gaze. Task requirement, accept or reject the redemption and affection from the pursuer, Shen Qingyue, and walk toward your own happy ending. The task is not mandatory to complete and there is no failure punishment. The host enjoys complete autonomy and the choice of free will. The memory clearing sequence will activate in 24 hours. Countdown starts 23, 59, 59. Along with the end of the system's cold robotic broadcast, I felt as if something was gently peeled away from my mind, yet it also felt like nothing had changed. The memories about Chu Qiao were still there, but those emotions that once made me wish I were dead seemed to be fading rapidly, just like a book that has been read countless times, where all the emotional annotations inside were suddenly pulled away, leaving only a dry outline of the plot. I knew the system had started working. It's fine. Forgetting those pains is for the best. Carrying the suitcase and standing downstairs at the apartment building, the sunlight was a bit dazzling. The phone rang. It was Shen Qingyue. Mochuan, I heard from a colleague that you took a day off today. Are you okay? His voice carried concern. I'm fine, just moving houses, I said. Everything is already settled. Moving. He was a bit surprised. So fast, do you need help? No need, there aren't many things. I paused. Thank you. Why are you being so polite? He smiled. Are you free tonight then? Let's celebrate your move to a new home. I know a pretty good private kitchen. I know the owner and the flavor is very authentic. I thought about it and didn't refuse. Sure, send me the address. See you tonight. Hanging up the phone, I raised my head and looked at the clear sky. A new life didn't seem as bad as imagined, at least the start was slightly better than 7 years ago. In the evening, Shen Qingyue and I ate at a secluded Jiangnan courtyard-style restaurant. The environment was quiet and beautiful, and the dishes were exquisite. We talked about a lot about work, about life, and about some insignificant, interesting things. He knew boundaries very well, not probing at all into anything regarding me and Chu Qiao, but just using his own way to provide gentle companionship and natural conversation. After dinner, we strolled along the riverbank. The evening breeze was blowing, carrying the coolness of water vapor. Mochuan! He suddenly stopped walking. Looking at my face, his eyes looked exceptionally soft under the dim yellow street lamp. There is a sentence I've always wanted to tell you. 7 years ago, when you pulled me out of that dark room, I thought that if one day I could become good enough and strong enough, I would definitely return before you and say thank you to you in person. Not just because you cured my illness, but also because you let me see how gentle, how kind, and how beautiful a person can be. He lowered his eyelashes slightly, his voice soft but firm. Back then, I didn't match this beauty, so I left working hard to grow up and become better. Now I am back. He raised his head again, his gaze clear and brave as he looked straight into my eyes. Cheng Mochuan, I like you. It's not gratitude and it's not dependence, it's the liking a woman has for a man. I know you might not be ready yet to start a new relationship. It's okay. I can wait. I just wanted to let you know my feelings, not wanting to be like 7 years ago when I could only look at you secretly, not even daring to say a single I like you. The evening breeze blew his long hair and skirt hem. Standing in the light and shadow, his beauty was a bit unreal. I looked at him, my heart beating steadily in my chest. There was no humility and unwillingness like when facing Chu Qiao, only a strange calmness and a trace of subtle satisfaction. The system said he was my new pursuer, but his gaze was so sincere and his confession was so direct, without schemes and without disguise. Perhaps to him, this was not a task but a journey he finally gathered enough courage for after a span of 7 years. I fell silent for a few seconds, then lightly nodded my head. Qingyue, thank you for your liking. Give me a bit of time. Okay? I needed time to let the system completely clear out the wreckage of the past and needed time to confirm my own heart. His eyes instantly lit up as if stars had fallen into them. Okay? He nodded vigorously, his smile brilliant. Any amount of time is fine as long as you don't make me wait for another 7 years. I was amused by his words. I won't, I said. At least this time, the initiative is in my hands. I can take it slow, I can think carefully, and I can follow my own heart to make a true choice. Rather than being hijacked by a so-called task and love blindly giving and desperately waiting. This feeling is not bad. The following days were peaceful and fulfilling. I moved into the new apartment, going to work and off work every day, handling tasks and occasionally having lunch or dinner with Shen Qingyue. We got along like friends and no one brought up that night's confession again, but the atmosphere between each other was undergoing subtle changes inadvertently. He would bring me a late night snack along the way when I worked overtime, and I would remind him to take medicine on time when he caught a cold or even just happened to buy throat lozenges of the brand he liked and put them on his office desk. The content of our chats also gradually deepened from the initial work and weather to each other's preferences and views on the future, planning and our views on certain things. I discovered that away from her, Vice President Aura Shen Qingyue in private was actually a somewhat cute girl who was full of curiosity and kindness toward the world. She liked growing succulent plants, watching indie art films, and trying all kinds of bizarre DIY crafts. She also saw the side of me outside of work, no longer just that eternally gentle and tolerant Dr. Cheng, but an ordinary person who would argue strongly with colleagues over project details, get frustrated over continuous overtime, and also couldn't help but squat down to feed a stray cat upon seeing one. We gradually revealed our true selves in front of each other without deliberate planning, but just letting it happen naturally. The system in my mind fell completely silent and never issued any prompt tones again. The memories about Chu Qiao also grew hazier day by day. Occasionally, when seeing a similar silhouette on the street, my heart would no longer ripple. I would just flatly shift my gaze. I knew the clearing program was progressing steadily. The heavy past belonging to the pursuer Cheng Mochuan was being stripped away piece by piece, while the life belonging to the Cheng Mochuan of this world was slowly unfolding. Until a week later on a weekend, Shen Qingyue and I agreed to go for a stroll in a newly opened wetland park in the suburbs. The weather was great. The autumn air was crisp and we walked side by side on the wooden boardwalk, watching the large birds skimming over the water surface in the distance, chatting casually. It was very relaxing and pleasant until a sharp voice shattered this peacefulness. Cheng Mochuan. I paused, following the voice to look over. At the other end of the wooden boardwalk, Chu Qiao stood there. He had lost a lot of weight. His originally well-fitting clothes now looked somewhat baggy. His face was haggard and pale with heavy dark circles and bloodshot streaks under his eyes, and his hair was also a bit messy. He looked in terrible shape overall. He stared dead at me and then suddenly snapped his gaze toward Shen Qingyue next to me, his eyes instantly turning incredibly venomous. It really is you. His voice was hoarse as if he hadn't spoken properly for a long time. Shen Qingyue. You shameless bitch. I knew it was you. You seduced him 7 years ago. And now you're doing it again. Are you really that desperate for a man? His shouting drew the glances of scattered tourists around. Shen Qingyue slightly frowned, took half a step forward, and subconsciously blocked a bit in front of me. Miss Chu, please watch your words. His voice was calm, yet it carried a majesty that could not be ignored. Watch my words. With a mistress like you who steals someone else's boyfriend? What kind of words do I need to watch? Chu Hao was like a lit firecracker rushing over in a few steps, his finger almost poking into Shen Qingyue's face. Cheng Mochuan is my boyfriend. We've been together for 7 years. What kind of thing are you to just step in while we are having a fight? Have you no shame? The surrounding discussions grew louder and pointing glances landed on me and Shen Qingyue. They look so decent, but it turns out she's a mistress and he's a cheater. Tisk tisk. This original partner is so pitiful, being driven to this state by anger. People nowadays are really... Shen Qingyue's face grew cold. I reached out and gently pulled him behind me, facing Chu Qiao directly. Chu Qiao. My voice wasn't loud, but was clear enough. We broke up long ago, back when you aborted the child. Moved into the hotel with Chen Qi and let him appear wearing only underwear right in front of my face. It was already over between us. Do I need to remind you what you said in the video back then? You couldn't wait for me to disappear immediately. Do I need to show you the photos of you accepting Chen Chi's diamond necklace again? Do I need to tell you what you and Chen Chi did in our living room? My string of words stabbed into Chu Qiao like cold knives. His face turned deathly pale. His body swayed and he looked at me in disbelief. The direction of the surrounding wind changed instantly. Wow, that's wild. So this guy's ex cheated herself, got pregnant with someone else's child, had an abortion, and then turned around to bite them instead. I knew it. Looking at this man and his female companion, their temperament is quite good. Not like that kind of people. This woman is terrifying. She's covered in filth herself, yet she runs over to curse at others. Chu Qiao listened to the surrounding discussions and looked at me and Shen Qingyue standing side by side. His expression shifted from shock to embarrassment and then to total madness. No, it's not like that, he roared. Cheng Mochuan, you're lying to me. You clearly said you would love me forever. You were clearly born for my sake. How can you fall in love with someone else? It's all because of him. It's this vixen who seduced you. He suddenly pointed at Shen Qingyue, his eyes as venomous as a snake dipped in poison. Shen Qingyue, you think you've won? Let me tell you, Cheng Mochuan is cursed. He can only love me alone in this lifetime. This is his destiny. You can't steal it away. Even if you get his body, you won't get his heart. He screamed hysterically, his words incoherent and his behavior like a madman. Shen Qingyue stepped out from behind me, looking at Chu Qiao with a calm gaze. There was no anger or smugness in his eyes, only a faint sense of pity. Chu Qiao! His voice was clear and steady, carrying far across the quiet wetland park. You are right. 7 years ago, I did like Dr. Cheng. Back then, he was like a beam of light illuminating my dark life. I sent him flowers and silk banners, clumsily trying to express my gratitude and affection. He paused, glancing at me with a gentle and honest look, then turned his gaze back to Chu Qiao. But back then, Dr. Cheng only had his patience, his responsibilities, and you in his eyes. I chose to leave to grow and to become better. Not because I gave up, but because I knew that back then, I wasn't even worthy of standing by his side. Over these 7 years, I kept tabs on him and knew how much he sacrificed for you. I once thought you too would be happy. But Chu Qiao, how did you treat him? Shen Qingyue took a step forward. His aura wasn't overbearing yet. It carried an invisible pressure. On his birthday, you ran to another man right in front of his face, completely ignoring his bleeding, wound, and even blacklisted his number. You were pregnant with his child yet to please. Chen Qiyo easily aborted it and deliberately ran to another city just to keep him from stopping you. You brought Chen Qi into the home we shared, doing the filthiest things and saying the most hurtful words. You trampled his 7 years of sincerity under your feet and crushed his dignity into dust. Now, just because he has finally woken up and refuses to be your backup plan or your simp anymore, you run over here throwing a tantrum like a madwoman accusing others of stealing your things. Shen Qingyue sneered, his laughter filled with endless irony. Chu Qiao, ask yourself, what exactly was Cheng Mochuan to you? Was he just an object you could call upon and cast away at will, or a dog that must wag its tail and beg for your mercy forever? He's not, Chu Qiao retorted shrilly, tears pouring out frantically. I love him. I regret it. I know I was wrong. Cheng Mochuan, come back. I beg you, please come back. Without you, I really can't live. He started repeating that same old act of crying and begging, trying to grab my sleeve. I took a step back and avoided his hand. This action caused Chu Qiao to freeze completely. He stared blankly at his empty hand, then looked up at my cold face, and finally looked at Shen Qingyue standing beside me. Despair submerged him like a tidal wave. Cheng Mochuan, he murmured, his voice so low it was almost inaudible. Do you really not want me anymore? Yes. I gave a clear and definite answer without a shred of hesitation. Why? His tears blurred his vision. Just because of those things I can change? I will only love you from now on. I will never see Chen Qi again. Let's get married. Let's have kids. Let's forget the past and start over, okay? Just like when you pulled me out of depression back then, save me one more time, okay? His words were rambling and his logic was messy, but that despair on the brink of collapse was real. Unfortunately, it was too late. Chu Qiao, I looked at him, the last bit of ripple in my heart caused by the past settling down. There is no future between us. From the moment I walked out of that door, we became strangers. Whether you live or die, your joy or anger, whom you love or whom you hate, none of it has anything to do with me anymore. I held Shen Qingyue's slightly cold hand beside me. His hand gently squeezed back, giving me silent support. You were indulged in your past obsession with Chen Qi, treating the person who truly loved you as a tool to fill your emptiness. You couldn't see clearly what you actually wanted, nor could you bear the consequences of your own choices. Chu Hao, no one can save you except yourself. But obviously you don't want to save yourself, you just want to drag others down, to drown with you in that muddy water of yours named Chen Qi. My words were like a final verdict, shattering all of Chu Qiao's illusions. He slumped to the ground, covering his face and letting out the mournful wail of a wounded beast. His crying was shrill and desperate, without a single shred of dignity left. The surrounding tourists pointed fingers, taking photos and whispering, but not a single person stepped forward to comfort him. Shen Qingyue gently tugged my hand. Let's go. I nodded, taking one last look at the woman on the ground who had once occupied 7 years of my life, then turned away without any lingering attachment, walking away side by side with Shen Qingyue. The wooden boardwalk was very long, and the crying behind us gradually grew faint, eventually scattered by the wind. Neither of us spoke, just walking quietly, his hand warm in my palm. And soft. We walked for a long time until we could no longer hear any noise, and the surroundings were left with only the rustling of reeds blown by the wind and the occasional calls of water birds. Only then did Shen Qingyue speak softly. Were those words I just said too direct? I'm actually not very good at arguing with people. I turned my head to look at him. His face looked a bit embarrassed, the tips of his ears slightly flushed, completely lacking the calm momentum he had when facing Chu Chao just now. No, I shook my head, tightening my grip on his hand. What you said was very right, and thank you. Thank you for standing by my side. Thank you for speaking up for me. Thank you for letting me know how it feels to be firmly protected by someone, so this is what it feels like. He smiled, his dimples appearing shallowly. Thank you for what I just couldn't stand the way he treated you. He hesitated for a bit, then said, Mo Chuan, there is something I think I should tell you. Chen Qi and his wife, Jia seem to be negotiating a divorce recently, but the specific terms are tightly stuck. Chen Qi wants more property division and Xia refuses to budge. Chen Qi approaching Chu Qiao, besides enjoying being worshipped, is very likely also trying to utilize Chu Qiao, or rather utilize what Chu Qiao might get from you to increase his own chips or to provoke Xia An. I frowned slightly. Chu Qiao and I have already broken up and I have nothing that can be utilized by him. Shen Qingyue took a glance at me, his eyes looking a bit Chu Hao have already broken up, so I have nothing that can be utilized by him. Shen Qingyue took a glance at me, his eyes looking a bit complex. Mo Chuan, you underestimate human greed too much, and you also underestimate your own value. Although you are just a high-level white-collar worker, your professional competence and reputation in the industry, as well as your person itself, are all resources in the eyes of some people. A person like Chen Qi won't make pointless investments. He spends time and energy to soothe Chu Qiao, so he must have a plot. I am worried that with Chu Qiao's current mental state, he might very likely be utilized by him to do things that are disadvantageous to you. His words made my heart tighten. Indeed, with Chen Qi's scheming and Chu Qiao's current obsessive madness, anything could happen. I will be careful, I said. Shen Qingyue nodded. If there is any trouble, tell me. Anytime. Xia An and I are casual acquaintances. Perhaps I can find out some inside information. Looking at the genuine worry in his eyes, a certain corner in my heart quietly softened. Qingyue. I called his name. Why are you so good to me? Is it merely because of the grace of medical treatment 7 years ago, or is it because of the system's pursuit task? He stopped. His footsteps turned around to face me. The sunlight of the wetland park scattered dappled light and shadow on him through the sparse treetops. His eyes were crystal, clear, reflecting my shadow. Mo Chuan, I have answered this question before. He smiled, his tone gentle yet firm. Because I like you, not because of gratitude and not because of a task. If there really is a so-called task, then my task is to make myself good enough and then walk before you to tell you my feelings. Being good to you is because I want to be good to you. Seeing you sad makes my heart ache. Seeing you being bullied makes me angry. Seeing you finally step out makes me happier than anyone else. It's just that simple. He stood on his tiptoes and raised his hand to gently brush away a strand of hair on my forehead that was messed up by the wind, his movement natural and intimate. So don't have any burden. Accepting my kindness or rejecting it is all your freedom. Accepting my kindness or rejecting it is all your freedom. I only hope you can give yourself a chance and also give me a chance to see if there is another possibility between us. His fingertips carried a slightly cool touch, which along with his gentle words gently knocked on my heart's door that had been closed for a long time. I did not dodge, but just looked at his face close at hand, listening to my own heartbeat that was gradually accelerating in my chest. The systems clearing program seemed to have reached its final stage. Those intense pains brought by Chu Qiao rapidly faded like a receding tide, leaving only some blurry silhouettes. Meanwhile, the silhouette of this woman in front of me grew more and more distinct. I fell silent for a moment, then turned my hand to hold his hand that had been withdrawn in the previous life. Okay, let's give it a try. Shen Qingyue's eyes instantly lit up strikingly, as if the sunlight and starlight of the entire wetland had fallen into them. He nodded vigorously, the rims of his eyes turning slightly red. Holding hands, we continued to walk forward along the wooden boardwalk. The reed marshes ahead were boundless. The rims of his eyes turned slightly red. Holding hands, we continued to walk forward along the wooden boardwalk. The reed marshes ahead were boundless. The water and sky matching in one color, and a new path was extending beneath our feet. Just as Shen Qingyue expected, Chu Qiao and Chen Qi did not turn out well. Stop there! Chu Qiao began to pester me even more aggressively. He no longer went to the company or downstairs of my apartment to block me, probably because he was stopped by security. A few times. Instead, he turned to calling me and sending me messages using all kinds of unknown numbers. The content gradually changed from the initial crying complaints and begging to vicious cursing and threats. He cursed me for being cold-blooded and ruthless, and cursed Shen Qingyue as a vixen who would die a horrible death, swearing that a dog couple like us would definitely face retribution. He threatened to expose my scandals, to ruin my reputation, and even to go find my parents. He also kept bringing up bits and pieces of the past 7 years, trying to use beautiful memories to awaken my conscience, even though those memories now sounded like nothing but irony. Blacklisted all the unknown numbers and set up a call filter, but these harassments still more or less affected my life and work. Shen Qingyue noticed my irritation. He didn't ask much, but just silently gave me more support at work and arranged some relaxing activities in life to help divert my attention. He would deliver soothing, hot tea when I worked overtime, tell some nonsensical jokes when I frowned, and drag me to see abstract art exhibitions that I couldn't understand at all, calling it purifying the soul and staying away from the worldly chaos. His companionship was like a silent stream gently washing away those foul traces. Meanwhile, on Chen Chi's side, his actions grew even more hidden and despicable. He began to spread false rumors about me through some business occasions, implying my lack of competence and even insinuating that the relationship between me and Shen Qingyue was an improper transactional relationship of power and sex, trying to shake my reputation in the company and within the industry. Shen Qingyue received the news immediately. He didn't panic, but calmly gathered evidence and then at an appropriate timing arranged to meet Chen Chi's wife Xia An. I only found out about this meeting later. According to Shen Qingyue's casual recounting, Xia An was a very smart and decisive woman. She was already completely disappointed in Chen Chi and the divorce was a done deal, except she wouldn't budge an inch on the division of property. Shen Qingyue didn't directly mention Chen Chi's slander against me, but just casually revealed Chen Chi's close interactions with Chu Qiao over the past few days, as well as the fact that Chu Qiao's emotions were extremely unstable and might lead to extreme behavior. He also hinted that if Chen Chi continued to make trouble outside and affect the divorce process, or even cause a worse social impact, it would definitely be disadvantageous for Xia An to fight for more property and custody. Xia An understood. A few days later, those petty actions of Chen Chi targeting me stopped naturally. He was even forced to publicly express high praise for a project department I was responsible for during a certain industry salon. And Chu Qiao's harassing phone calls and messages also suddenly disappeared completely on a certain day. Shen Qingyue told me that Xia An had a talk with Chu Qiao. What exactly they talked about was unknown, but it was said that after Chu Qiao answered the call, he locked himself in his room for 2 whole days. Although he still looked haggard when he came out, he was no longer frantically looking for me or Chen Chi and had just become unusually silent. Chen Chi also seemed to have received some sort of warning and stopped contacting Chu Qiao frequently. He accelerated the process of his divorce from Xia An. It was said that the conditions were pressed very low, making it almost like leaving the marriage with nothing just to get the divorce certificate as soon as possible. Regarding these waves behind the scenes, Shen Qingyue didn't let me get involved too much. He quietly cleared the obstacles on the road for me in a protective stance. When I heard from colleagues that Chen Chi had been very well behaved recently and Chu Qiao also seemed to have vanished without a trace, only then did I suddenly realize just how much Shen Qingyue had done for me. I found him wanting to express my gratitude, but he just waved his hand and said with a smile, "Don't thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Sister Xia An for her powerful methods. I merely passed along a message. Besides," he looked at me, his gaze gentle. "Seeing your frown relax and seeing you able to work and eat with peace of mind makes me feel it's all worth it." My heart felt as if it had been lightly brushed by a feather rippling with a surge of warm thumping. Time flowed peacefully. The relationship between me and Shen Qingyue, under our agreement to give it a try, was developing slowly and steadily. We dated like all ordinary couples, watching movies, eating meals, visiting museums, and going hiking in the suburbs. We also got along like all ordinary partners, sharing worries in work, complaining about difficult clients, struggling over what to eat for the weekend, browsing the supermarket together to buy groceries, and then trying to cook a decent dinner. There was no vigorous confession, no life and death entanglements, only the tacit understanding built up through trivial daily routines and the unspoken agreement when looking at each other with a smile. He no longer called me Dr. Cheng, but called me Mo Chuan directly, and I no longer called him VP Shen, but called him Qingyue. The system had fallen completely silent, as if it had never existed, and the memories of the pursuit task became extremely distant and blurry, like a nightmare from a previous life. Only occasionally, in the dead of a quiet night, when looking at the quiet side profile of Shen Qingyue sleeping soundly beside me, would I suddenly remember my original mission upon coming to this world. But that was no longer important. What mattered was the present, the warmth held in my hands at this moment, and the grounded sense of certainty in my heart when looking toward the future. Shen Qingyue never pried into the past between me and Chu Qiao, nor did he ever question the progress of my feelings for her. She gave me the utmost respect and space and used his own way to firmly and continuously treat me well. His kindness, was not overbearing and brought no pressure like spring rain nourishing things silently. Until one weekend evening, we set up a table on the small balcony of my apartment, eating the tiramisu he had learned to make on a whim, looking at the brilliant night view of the city. As the night breeze blew gently, he suddenly spoke, his voice very soft. Mochuan. The company has an opportunity for an expatriate assignment to the UK for a period of 2 years, responsible for expanding the European market. The higher ups asked for my opinion. The hand I used to hold, the small spoon paused slightly, and I looked at him. He was also looking at me, his eyes clear, carrying a trace of imperceptible nervousness. It's a very good opportunity, I said. He nodded. The challenge is big, but if done well, it will be a worthwhile leap for both myself and the company. I fell silent for a few seconds. Do you want to go? I asked. I want to hear your thoughts, he said seriously. If you feel it's too fast or inconvenient, I can recommend someone else to go. The meaning of his words was very clear. If our relationship was still unstable or if I didn't want him to leave, he could give up this excellent promotion opportunity. I put down the spoon and held his hand that was placed on the tabletop. Qingyue, this is your career and your future. You shouldn't easily give up an important opportunity for anyone. His fingers curled up slightly. But I continued, watching the light slowly lighting up in his eyes. If you ask for my thoughts, I hope you can go because that's what you want to do and something that can make you become better. As for us, I paused, feeling that clear and firm emotion in the depths of my heart. If you don't mind the hardship of a long-distance relationship, I'm willing to wait for you. Or if you need, I can also apply for a transfer to the UK branch, of course, with my personal work competence and willingness as a prerequisite, without relying on your connections. Shen Qingyue froze. He stared blankly at me, the rims of his eyes turning red, at a speed visible to the naked eye. Tears quickly welled up and then rolled down in large drops. They were not tears of sadness, but tears of surprise, disbelief, and happiness. Mochuan, he choked up, unable to even complete his sentence. I raised my hand and gently wiped away the tears on his cheek, my movements a bit clumsy but very gentle. Qingyue, during these past few months, thank you. Thank you for pulling me out of a total mess. Thank you for letting me know what it feels like to be firmly chosen. And also, thank you for waiting patiently for me to sort myself out. Now I think I can tell you with absolute certainty. I looked into his eyes, speaking clearly, word by word. Shen Qingyue, I like you. Not out of gratitude, not out of settling, it's the liking a man has for a woman. The kind of liking that makes me want to spend the rest of my life with you. So go pursue your career. I will be here or I will go to your side. In short, I won't leave you alone. Shen Qingyue suddenly threw himself into my arms, hugging me tightly, burying his face in my shoulder, crying like a child. The warm tears soaked my shirt and also comforted my heart. I firmly held her back, feeling the slight trembling of her body and the reassuring fragrance coming from her hair. Under the night sky, the city lights were like a galaxy swirling upside down while we embraced on the tiny balcony, having found the happiness belonging to each other. A month later, Shen Qingyue flew out to take up his post. I didn't apply for a transfer because an important local project on hand had reached a critical phase and I couldn't give up halfway. We began our long-distance relationship. The 12-hour time difference across the entire Eurasian continent did not dilute our relationship. On the contrary, it made every video call seem exceptionally precious. We agreed to video call at least once every day, even if it was only 10 minutes just to see each other's faces and talk about what happened today. We shared the rain of London and the sunny days of Shanghai, shared the fun and frustrating things encountered at work, and shared our plans for the future and the occasional longing that popped up. Under the test of distance, our relationship grew more settled and deep. I successfully completed the project on hand, received a promotion, and also began to keep an eye out on whether there were work opportunities related to the UK business within the company or the industry. Chu Chao and Chen, she faded out of my life like faded old photos. Occasionally, I heard from others that Chu Chao seemed to have finally found a job and moved out of that house full of memories, living alone, keeping a low profile, and rarely interacting with people from the past circle anymore. The property Chen Chi got after the divorce was not much, and his career showed no signs of improvement. It was said that he wanted to go back abroad to develop, but it didn't seem very smooth. Hearing this news in my ears could no longer stir up half a bit of pity. They had finally become true, insignificant passersby in each other's lives. Half a year later, my project came to a successful close, and the company just happened to have a midterm project in cooperation with the UK branch that required someone to be sent for liaison. Relying on my outstanding performance and language skills, I naturally got this expatriate opportunity with a term of 1 year. Before departing, I went back to my old home once it was now a property under Chu Chao's name. I needed to retrieve the last relic of my mother that had been forgotten there. I used the spare key that Chu Chao had never changed to open the door. The room was much emptier. Most of the furniture I left behind had been moved away or covered with dust sheets, appearing cold and cheerless. There was a dusty smell of a place long uninhabited in the air, along with a trace of faint perfume. That was once the scent I chose for her, but smelling it now, I only felt it was unfamiliar. In a locked, small drawer in the corner of the study, I found the old, mechanical pocket watch left by my mother. This was the only memento my father left for my mother, and my mother gave it to me before she passed away. Opening the pocket watch, there was a tiny group photo of a family of 3 inside. Back then, I was still a child, and my parents were young and loving. On the inside of the watch case, a line of small words was engraved. Time is fleeting, only love is eternal. I rubbed the cold metal case, my heart filled with a peaceful sorrow for my early past parents, and for my past self who had been lost here. Tucking the pocket watch away carefully, I was just preparing to leave when my gaze swept across the trash can in the corner of the study. Some miscellaneous items were thrown inside, and on the very top was a photo that had been torn to pieces and then barely taped back together. It was a group photo of me and Chu Chao. It was taken by a passerby during a trip about 3 years ago. The background was the azure sea and the golden beach. I was holding his shoulder, he was leaning in my arms, and both of us were smiling very happily. The photo had been torn very badly, and the taping was also very rough. The cracks ran across the picture like ugly centipedes. After being taped back together, it had been slashed hard many times with a pen. Very rough. The cracks ran across the picture like ugly centipedes. After being taped back together, it had been slashed hard many times with a pen. My face and the area where he leaned on my chest were almost completely scribbled out in black. One could imagine how angry and resentful the person who tore it was, and how contradictory and pained the person who taped it back together was. In the end, probably even the person who taped it back could no longer face this broken illusion, casting it into the trash like a worn-out shoe. I quietly looked at an unrecognizable group photo in the trash can, watched it for a few seconds, then turned around and walked out of this room without any lingering attachment, closing the door. And also completely closing that page named the past. After a flight of over 10 hours, the plane landed at London Heathrow Airport. Walking through the long jet bridge into the arrival hall, I spotted at first glance that figure standing in the crowd. Shenqing Yue was wearing an off-white long trench coat and a light gray cashmere scarf, his black hair loosely tied up behind his head, revealing his elegant neck. He was standing on his tiptoes, trying hard to look through the surging crowd, his face carrying an obvious eagerness and anticipation. When he finally saw me, those bright eyes instantly curved into crescents, and an incomparably brilliant smile blossomed on his face. He waved at me vigorously, completely disregarding the gazes of the people around. Pushing the luggage cart, I quickened my steps and walked toward him. As the distance grew closer and closer, I could clearly see the starlight twinkling in his eyes, and his cheeks that were slightly flushed due to excitement. Finally, I stopped in front of him. Qing Yue. I called his name. My voice carried a hint of hoarseness after the long-haul flight mixed with an unmistakable tenderness. Mo Chuan. He practically leaped forward to throw himself into my arms, his arms wrapping tightly around my neck, burying his head in my shoulder as he took a deep breath. Then he complained in a low voice, "Why did it take you so long to get out? I was worried sick waiting for you." I held his slender waist, feeling the real warmth and familiar scent radiating from his body. The exhaustion from traveling over the past few days instantly vanished without a trace. The plane was delayed by half an hour. I explained softly, unable to resist lowering my head, to plant a kiss on his hair. His body froze slightly, and then he held me even tighter, whispering softly in my ear, "Welcome to London, Mr. Cheng. Your Miss Shen has been waiting for you for a long time." I smiled, my chest surging with a complete fullness of warmth and happiness. I'm here." We embraced each other in the bustling crowd of the foreign airport. The future might still hold storms and challenges, but at this moment, we have each other. We have the courage to face everything together, and our hands are tightly clasped as we walk toward the future. That is enough. A year later in London, Shen Qingyue and I own a cozy apartment by the banks of the River Thames. The French windows in the living room face the London eye directly, and when the city lights first come on at night, the view is incomparably beautiful. My expatriate project has progressed smoothly, and the company intends to extend my term, even considering setting up a new office in London with me in charge. Shenqing Yue has been doing incredibly well in the UK market, achieving brilliant results. Our life is simple yet fulfilling. In our spare time, we explore the streets and alleys of London together, go to Bath to see the ancient Roman ruins, go to Edinburgh to experience the arts festival, or curl up on the sofa on weekend mornings to drink coffee and read or do nothing at all, just snuggling together to watch the clouds roll by outside the window. we met. His parents, an open-minded and kind couple of intellectuals who were full of curiosity and goodwill toward the boyfriend their daughter had waited 7 years to finally pursue. We are also planning to return to our home country to formally visit my elders after this phase of my project ends, and then perhaps we can consider the next step of our life plan. On an ordinary weekend evening, we are at home preparing a simple dinner. Shenqing Yue is cutting fruit, and I am responsible for searing the steaks. The warm aroma of food drifts through the kitchen and lazy jazz music plays on the radio. Suddenly, my phone screen lights up with a text message from an unknown domestic number. The content consists of only a single sentence without context. He's getting married tomorrow, remarrying that woman named Xia-an. I stared at this text message for a few seconds before realizing that the he referred to Chen Qi. It was sent by Chu Chao. How does he still have my number, and why did he deliberately tell me this? Shook my head, my heart completely devoid of any ripples, even finding it a bit boring. Whether Chen Qi and Xia-an remarry or live their own glamorous lives, whether Chu Chao has moved on or is still in pain, it has nothing to do with me anymore. They are already chapters that have been turned over in my life story and will never be looked back on. I deleted the text message and casually blacklisted this number. Again, what's wrong? Shenqing Yue walked over carrying the fruit salad, keenly noticing my momentary distraction. Nothing. I placed the seared steaks onto a plate and turned around to smile at him. Just a spam message. He looked at my expression and seemed to understand something, but he didn't pry further. He just leaned in and gently kissed my cheek. The steak smells so good, he said with a smile, his eyes gentle. Let's eat, Chef Chung. Okay. I took his hand and walked toward the dining table. Outside the window, London's night sky gradually deepens with starlight and city lights reflecting off each other. Inside, the lights are warm, the food is delicious, and my lover is by my side. This is my present and my future. The male lead, who once wanted to be a background character, has finally found his one and only female lead in his own story. From now on, everywhere his eyes can see is the path home.